You allow me to go through this work session with you. Just wanted to mention before we start, World Changers in 2027 is going to be coming around. It's a great program. The county has worked with World Changers for many years. They've stopped it for a few years, but Janet Rakestraw, she and the Pascals over here at Wentworth usually led the charge on that.
And so what has happened at this point, looking for 2027, Janet just wanted to make sure that she had county support when she proceeds forward and talks to folks as far as whether it's facilities, whether it's donations, just make sure that she's got county support. There's really no action for us to take at this point in time, but if anybody's got any questions about it, then we'll be glad to get those resolved, or anybody got any objections to it. But it's a positive for the county, at least based on all past experiences.
Yes.
Well, I concur, you do not need a motion for this, I believe.
No, we do not.
Okay, continue on. So just wanted to point out the budget. So this budget right here was, I call it pre-Berger. It was a smaller version of the budget, and then we've got post-Berger, which is half the size of the Bible. So a lot of detail, and if somebody, this is about as transparent as you can be, than how many reams of paper we buy, which you can see we bought a lot to make these books. But if you read it and you can't understand what's in it, then there's an issue.
And to clarify, I believe what you're saying is before it didn't have the detail that it does.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Actually, we had more pages and tabs, I think, than we did pages for the explanations. All right, let's go ahead and start. So on page, I'm going to go through the budget message and highlight the major changes and items for consideration in the recommended budget. If there are any questions in the budget message, please stop me, but we'll get into further detail. The budget message is basically a summary. So I'm going to start with pages 6 and 7. There are two things that I want to point out. Is the total recommended budget is, the general fund recommended budget is $129,235,240. And the total budget itself, including all other funds, is $175,578,368. When we first started the process, we had a deficit of $18.4 million, which is equivalent to a 15-cent tax rate. The driving factor was a $9.87 million increase from the schools, $550,000 increase in revenues. This includes a slight increase in health insurance and our mandatory retirement contributions. $4.3 million is in capital outlay requests, and the rest is in general operations and other expenses, which we'll get into later on. On page 7, again, the recommended ad valorem rate is 58.01 cents, which reflects no tax increase. The projected tax base is $12.75 billion for the upcoming year. Following the reevaluation, the county reached a 98% of market value, and we've already dropped down to 91% within that short period of time. And as you can recall, the state requires a reval if you drop below 85 or if you go above 115. We're starting to go down. So we briefly mentioned this in the past, but we'll probably come to you guys to discuss a 4-year reval in the upcoming months rather than 8. That way it's not that much of a sticker shock, as well as we might drop it. If we drop below that 85, then we lose that public utilities. On this page, the real and personal property increased by 4.85%, public utilities increased by 4.29%, and motor vehicles increased slightly below 1%. The tax collection rate for real, personal, and utilities is 98.58%, and motor vehicles is 99%. We estimate the ad valorem revenues will be a little shy of $73 million, and the value of the penny is $1,257,411, for an increase of $61,177 from last time. On page 8, we'll talk about sales tax. Brief explanation, especially for Jeff, since he's new on the board. We collect 7 cents sales tax. 4.75 cents is remitted to the state. The county shares 2 cents with the municipalities on a per capita basis. A portion of the 2 cents is also restricted by the state for school capital needs. The quarter-cent sales tax is for the RCC and workforce development, that's 0.25 cents. We are forecasting a slight decrease because it's better than pre-COVID, but we're projecting a slight decrease this year because it's starting to plateau out.
Well, those projections have been accurate from what actually Pat gave us, I think,
Yeah.
3 years ago.
Yeah. Other key revenues, 8 and 9, EMS fees, they've increased. Revenue projections are based on their current year experience. Public health fees, just an increase in clientele, increase in fees. We're recommending switching from contract of the pharmacists to hire the pharmacists full-time. And you'll see a wash in that because our expenditures will be offset by the revenues that she brings in. Interest earned, we had the luxury of having interest earned making money. We're estimating that we'll have a decrease of right at $100,000 this year in interest earned. Inspection fees, the increase in inspection fees is a combination of increasing the fees, and we continue to see growth countywide. The transfer from capital reserve, the transfer from capital reserve reflects a decrease for the CPI, but this fluctuates from year to year. Transfer from the enterprise fund, since the county contracted the landfill operations out, we use the general fund to fund anything pertaining to the landfill in years past. This year, we're using the funds from the landfill to subsidize the cost, so we're not using general fund to pay for the landfill operations. Page 9, talk about the general fund balance. We always put a 2.5 plug in there. That's the usual plug we put in there. We put $480,000 in there for estimated surplus related to public safety. This is a usual occurrence between lapsed salaries and vacancies. We have that amount that we put in there. Roughly $209,000 for purchases of one-time vehicles, which we'll get into later, and using the canteen fund for the 3rd year contract for the smoke exhaust inspection system for the jail general insurance, and part-time position for the Veteran Support Program.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
just quickly, I had a question about this. Would you share for the public what you mean by the $2.5 million plug?
That's basically, and we've had that, and it actually should be higher because our budget's grown, but it's been that way for the past 13 years, or before I got here. But the 2.5 plug is basically, we know we're gonna have lapsed salaries, we know with the department's not gonna spend as much, so that plug's there in order to balance the budget, but we actually exceed the savings, the 2.5 every year.
And that amount of money is what we expect at minimum to return to the general fund at the end of the year.
In other funds, again, we'll get to that after a while, but there are no significant, there's nothing really significant in there other than the health insurance, where we added a wellness reimbursement expenditure line item, and that's just for more transparency and accountability. Page 9 and 10, personnel. There are 10 new positions that were requested. We only recommended 8 new positions and reclassifying 3 positions. I'll get into more detail on these positions when we go through the position part. Page 10 and 11 is the employee compensation and support. We currently make available to our staff employee assistance program. Currently, we only provide 1 session. We're recommending that we provide up to 3 sessions. 1 session the county pays for, every session after that, the employee pays for. So we think that if they have up to 3, then that should help out with whatever's going on. And the employee assistance program is anybody who's going through PTSD from trauma from something at a law enforcement sees, EMS, or something in social services. It could be they're going through a divorce. It could be they're having financial issues. We have this program set up so staff can utilize this program. 401k contribution, we haven't done it in the past. We're recommending a 1% match with the employees, 1% match. And that is, we're trying it out. We don't know how many employees will take advantage of it. So we're recommending to use some of the fund balance just to see. I mean, it may be a handful, it may be a lot. We don't know yet.
Yes, sir.
Just clarification, 1% match total, not one for one.
No, 1%, if they agree to put 1% in, we agree to put 1% in.
If they put 5 in, they still get 1%?
Yes, sir.
All right, okay, thank you.
Also in there, in the budget is a 3% cost of living based on the Southeast Consumer Price Index. Also, there was a survey conducted by both the PTRC, the league, and the association, and that's, the 3% is kind of the average. Also recommending in the budget an average of 3% merit increase. We've done that for the past several years. PTRC is working on the other classification pay plan that weren't included in phase one. Phase one were the ones we were losing a lot of staff to. Phase two is the rest of the staff. We have approximately 1.2 million in the budget for that pay plan. If we can, move to page 11, 12, and 13, which will be the general fund, the significant capital. IT hardware and core infrastructure replacement and a reliable vehicle for IT to transport equipment countywide. So IT has, right now, they're using a used services van that's just outused its useful life. It's shot, and every time we have to repair it, it costs more than what it's worth, kind of like the Saturn. But anyway, so we're recommending a replacement for that, because these guys ladies and guys, they go around to all the EMS bases, the libraries, we just want to make sure that they're safe when they're transporting stuff. Funding for repairs and replacement at the courthouse. Courthouse is over 12 years old, and it's starting to see some wear and tear. Purchase a new ambulance and a remount on a new truck. Purchase 10 vehicles for the vehicles. Sheriff's Department for road patrol, civil, and detective division. We'll get into that when we go over vehicles. Replace a jail transport vehicle with high mileage. Replace the fingerprint reader, and replace a building inspector's vehicle. All right, starting on the bottom of 12 and going to 13, as I mentioned earlier, 4% of the I'm sorry.
Mr. Berger.
Just a question, this may be a better question for Mr. Cates, but I know last year we talked about lead times on these ambulances. How far out are we now as far as how long it takes for us to get an ambulance?
They're still probably on average two plus years.
So have we received the last ambulance that we approved? Have we received that one yet?
No, sir, not as of yet.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
All right, bottom page 12, 13. As I mentioned, 4% of the property tax goes towards our debt service and CIP. Debt service is about 3.5, and the CIP is close to 2 million. There are 5 projects that are on page 13 that are recommended in the upcoming year for our CIP. Ag Center, the carpet's been there forever. Recommended to replace that. That's one of the 3 phases, I guess, down there. The second would be the ceiling and or the windows, but all 3 of those need to be taken care of. The jail, we've got $720,000 in there for phase 2 of 3 updates in the jail, and those have to do with showers, repair the showers, replacement of kitchen equipment, door repairs, replacements, and control remotely the plumbing in the cells. And just an explanation on that is when there's flooding in the cells, they have to manually go back there and take care of that, whereas when they're in the central patrol, they can be there and turn off a particular cell at any time and not have the whole thing shut off. So that would be helpful. The annual replacement of the MBTs, we put some money in there for future, for the expansion of the Health and Human Service building expansion, and future buildings reserved for any public needs that you all see, water, sewer, public facilities, whatever you need it for. Page 14 is education. The first is public schools. We're recommending to increase that by the Southeast CPI by 3%. Recommending no increase for capital outlay. They do have restricted sales tax, and that is basically for their pay-go projects, but they have to come and get your approval for those. The community college recommended an increase in their operations by 3% as well. They have asked to utilize $185,000 for their quarter-cent sales tax for operations, and we're recommending no increase in capital outlay. 1.83 million of their quarter cent sales tax is committed to the Debt Service and Workforce Development Center. RCC will be bringing a more detailed quarter cent sales tax request to you all at a later date. Fire districts, out of the 19 fire districts that we have, 10 fire districts have asked for a tax increase. Derek and I have met with the fire departments requesting the increase, and they've all had their community meetings as of today, this past week. And, but we'll discuss that. That's in your other funds, and that's when we can get more into detail about that. And lastly is the contingency that we put in there every year, and that's just basically allowing me to have flexibility to be able to utilize funds if we have some sort of things that pop up during the year. We try not to use, we haven't used a whole lot this year. And we don't, try to not to use a whole lot, but it's there in case we need it. This is the budget in a nutshell, but we're gonna go through in more detail. Turn to page 16. This is the budget brief and summaries of revenues, expenditures. And if I'm going too fast or too slow or whatever, just please remind me. This budget brief, with your recommended budget by departments and funds, the summary of all your budgeted accounts here against the 175 million for total and the 129 million for general fund. You know, it's a breakdown of your basic costs. Going to page 17 is a summary of the revenues. And the largest impacts here to point out is ad valorem at roughly 3.5 increase, the decrease of 465,000 in sales tax, EMS increase of 261, the Veterans Treatment Court 235. Again, that's a grant, a multi-year grant, a decrease in social services, and a decrease in interest earned, and we're using less fund balance this year than we did last year.
Yes, sir. Mr.
Lance, how do we account for the decrease in social services? Or Derek, whoever wants to fill that one.
Some of the positions changed around on the funding that we received down, or we can pull down from the state, and then also some of their programs they're no longer funded.
Thank you, Mr.
Yes, sir.
All right, page 18 is the summary of expenditures. The large contributors to the expenditures are the proposed adjustment for employee compensation, the implementation of the pay plan that you all previously approved with the vulnerable positions. That's the ones that were phase one, and increases in non-departmental, EMS, sheriff, jail, Veterans Court, public health, which we'll discuss once we get to their individual line items and their budgets. Going briefly to the next section, which will be 19. This is just to the benefit of the public and Jeff being new on the board. Mandatory versus discretionary funding. These pages basically show you that the majority of the services that the county provides are mandatory. There are several discretionary, but there are ones that we can't live without, like HR, IT, economic development. But it just gives you a good idea of what's mandatory, what we're required to do, regardless if we want to or not.
Lance?
Yes, sir.
Along those lines, just for the public, I know we had a number of folks that live on social media and tend to put out extremely inaccurate and very seldom any accurate or useful information. As far as the percent of our budget that, you've itemized it here, but as far as percent of our budget that we've got discretion over, I know we've talked before about that. It's usually in the 60s or something to that.
Upper 60s.
Yes, sir,
Yeah,
close
yeah.
to 70%,
Yep.
but I mean, it's 60, that's about 2/3 of it
Yes, sir.
that is
Mandatory. It's either mandatory, that the county pays 100%, mandatory county pays 50%, or 25%, but it fluctuates, depending on the service. All right, capital outlay would be page 20, starting on page 21. We have over 3.1 million recommended in the budget for the capital outlay. And you'll hear a lot of redundancy, but I'd rather be redundant than not cover it at all. In EMS, we have got one new ambulance, replacing Rodney Stewart's truck, which has outlived its useful life. and a remount like we normally do. In building utilities, the biggest thing here is the replacement of the floors at the Agriculture Center. IT is to replace the switches and the backbones of our IT system. If you need more explanation of that, you can ask the IT fellow. Jail renovations, again, this will be the second year of a 3-year cycle for the jail renovations, which we'll discuss later on. In the Sheriff's Department, he requested 13 vehicles, and we are recommending 10, which we'll discuss in the vehicle section. The General Reserve, again, that's for the future expansion of the Health and Human Services building. We're putting a little bit away until we're able to fund up. Might be a lot further along than what we think, because looks like it might be more than what we expected. Future public facilities, again, this is for the public need, if it's water, sewer, structures, anything like that. The school capital reserve, excess sales tax that goes in the reserves, and this is for pay-go and debt service. Water and sewers, self-explanatory, it's just for water and sewer taps. And just FYI, many of the capital requests were made in the current year, and so we asked them to fund it in this current year so it doesn't burden the 2026 year budget.
Question?
Yes, sir.
Let's talk about public defenders.
Yes.
Has there been discussion about space and cost of such space?
Yes.
There's been discussions. We're looking at lots of different avenues to address that. I don't know how soon. Kevin, you might know more than I do how soon, but.
Well, so both the House and the Senate have passed budgets. The House budget spends or does away with tax breaks, so it's about a $9 billion difference. And they'll go into reconciliation. I do know that the PD's office was in the Senate budget. I don't know any specifics as far as the House, as far as local dollars. But once they go into reconciliation, there's things that are in both budgets that may not be there. There's things that's in one, and there's a process that they go through as far as chairs and committees, and we'll see how all that fluctuates and what we end up with. But timeline, they expect to have something to the governor within 3 to 4 weeks.
It's pretty quick
Yes.
compared to the last few years.
Yes. Yes. And then they'll go from there. I mean,
Well, notwithstanding that, my question was, have we made any estimates about additional space that we may have to build, relocate, and so forth?
So what we'll probably end up having to do is come up with something short-term, because it's moving fairly quickly. But we are looking at long-term solutions, and that will be forthcoming to you all at a later date.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Ready to move on to vehicles? Okay, on page 23, our vehicles. We are asking that you all consider to replace a vehicle in building inspections, an old van, like I said, mentioned earlier, for IT transport, and that will come, since it's only once every blue moon, we need one for IT. That's going to, we're recommending coming from fund balance. For that one-time purchase 2 vehicles for public health, and we're asking that you all consider moving that from the public health escrow account. That should cover that. They've got plenty of funds in the public escrow account to be able to account for that. To replace the EMS, Rodney Stewart's vehicle, and that will come also from the fund balance, because that will be a one-time, because it's not recurring every year. Purchase a new ambulance, provide a remount box on a new chassis for the EMS, replace 10 vehicles for the Sheriff's Department. I think it's 1 in civil, 6 patrol, 2 detectives, and 1 investigation detective.
we had one patrol that we replaced during the year that was purchased with insurance funds. Did we account for that as far as the numbers, as far as our capital plan?
It was not in part of their request, the one we replaced for the insurance. I think one of these have changed a little bit because we during this budget process, after what was recommended, I think they've had a wreck, but I haven't heard if that is going to be fully replaced or not. But I think the ultimate agreement with the sheriff's department here is they've given us the request of the vehicles that they want. And we realize that if transmission goes out or one or things like that could change, they just have to come back with us and let us know those changes. That is not a process that we had been communicating in the past. But we're talking with Jennifer. I think we're on the same page. If this plan changes and a vehicle needs to move around, they just let us know.
But the patrol one that we replaced during the year.
Was not one of
was
these
not
being
one of-
requested. No.
Okay, and as far as the plan that was in place, as far as the rotation, so that, do we have any idea when that was scheduled to be replaced, since it was a patrol vehicle?
That I don't know.
I would have to look at that exact vehicle to know when it was like, yeah.
Like that info?
Yeah, Ronnie,
No, it would be us. We could work with Jennifer to look that one up. Yep.
and the last vehicle,
Commissioner Barrett?
I'm sorry.
Sorry, just to follow up on that, but the rest of these vehicles that are being recommended have previously been outlaid in the capital plan?
Yes, and I want to clarify a little bit on the capital plan. It is separate than our CIP plan, the capital replacement. So you guys funded the purchase of a software for us to better understand our fleet. We are now getting data in that system, and we are able to make better decisions on it. So it used to be just a mileage, and we would do that. It is not that now. Jennifer brought up some really good points during the process. Hey, I've got one that's low miles, but I've got a constant cooling problem, and so we're dumping money. So we have that in the system where we can see that data now. So it fluctuates, but a general plan is we want to get to a number and then pick out what's the best fit for those 10 or 11 that we're going to replace each year. Because when you look at their active fleet, we're in the number of 10 or 11 needs to be replaced every year, because it's not saying that a patrol car is going to be 10 years old. It is saying that they take that fleet and they go, I have one that I use less, so I'll put a patrol car, when I get this new, we put a patrol fleet in. And then it may roll down to one that's not on the road all day, every day. So the older cars go to the ones that is not as critical in the patrol fleet. So we are working through that. We all have better data than we just had 3 years ago. It was a mileage and, before, and now we have a system that's built of data. We actually met with that system this week, and they are gonna put some analytics in it that helped us not only human project it, but the system start projecting it for us as well.
Thanks, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And so that'll account for all the vehicles?
Yes, that's not just the sheriff, that's all vehicles. Yeah.
Okay, because I know we had one that ended up parked for a lengthy period of time that didn't have maintenance issues.
Yeah,
It was
and
just parked at the maintenance shop at the end of a dead-end road.
And when we talked with the software company this week, if we see a car that's being driven at any consistency and then all of a sudden it falls off, you're either going to have to put it into some type of maintenance mode, or it's gonna flag in the system what happened. Like, is it in a prolonged repair or things like that? It's not showing in an active fleet. So it's part of, we're building the system to help us better manage.
So when you're talking about if now this day and time, if it didn't get appropriate maintenance, it would red flag us and let us know, and then we'd ask the department why the vehicle's not
Why is
being
it
used.
just parked and
Yep.
not being utilized?
Yes.
And we have other scenarios too in the system where a car may be purchased from dollars from a program, and it only can be used for that program. And let's say the funding got cut halfway through the year of that program. I got a car that's sitting there for 6 months. That's data that we need to know, because sometimes that's not the most effective use of those pull-down dollars. If I've got a car that's sitting there for 6 months and nobody can drive it, and I got other people in that department that need a car. So,
Or just nobody selectively driving it?
correct.
Okay.
Well, some of these things have restrictions. If you're not part of that program, you can't use that car.
Right.
So it might be better for us as a county to go, I don't want those dollars, let us use our dollars so I can use that as a whole holistic approach for this whole county. So we are getting better data to make those decisions that we just did not have.
Example of that is TANF. I mean, if you're not in the TANF program, you can't drive those vehicles, so they might have 10,000 miles on them.
And they might be 10 years old.
Yep.
Yeah.
The last one for vehicle replacement is the transport van for the inmates. And that's also from requesting fund balance, because that's typically not one that you would regularly see. Positions, The recommended increase in positions, as I mentioned in the budget message, is 8 new positions and reclassified 3 positions. And I'll just go over those briefly. 1 position, and I'll get more detail in the departments, but 1 position at the animal shelter for animal shelter coordinator. 2 positions for DSS, which are covered, some covered by the federal government, for an adult protective service program manager and supervisor after hours. 2 new positions for EMS for EMTs. 1 new position for public utilities. That we recommend that come from fund balance because that's Ronnie's succession plan, and we won't have to. That won't be a redundant or a recurring cost. 1 position for HR. The position for public health, transferring the pharmacist contract into a county employee. Reclassifications in DSS, economic development, and the sheriff's office. We are not recommending 2 positions. I'll discuss these positions later on. In this part also, you've got the pay plan and you've got the organizational chart. I'll pause for a second. Does anybody have any questions about those?
We can continue.
Okay. Vision, page 34, the vision, mission, and strategic focus area. These are the guiding principles for operations and budget preparations based on the planning retreat we had with you all. Just a reminder, we did add the increased communication and transparency under public safety, as you all requested during the time that we met in February. Page 35 is the fire districts. Again, we have 19 fire districts. We have 21 volunteer fire departments. 10 of the fire districts are seeking a tax increase. Again, Derek and I both met with each department that was asking for an increase. They've had their community meetings, and we'll discuss that in the other funds. Those are in the other funds we'll get to. Fee schedule. The Board of Elections changed a little bit because basically for filing now, it's increased because it's 1% of the minimum salary for the sheriff and the register of deeds, and that's a state statute that we're required to do. EMS, due to Medicare fee schedule. Public utilities increased primarily because of the increase in sewer fees. Inspections have not increased in forever, so we finally increased those to be more compatible with other counties. And register of deeds, just simply the postage costs have increased, so that's why those fees have increased. Page 39 is the budget calendar that you all had. Just want to make sure this is part of the package. Page 40 through 49 is just the budget ordinance itself. Once we go to public hearing, and if and when you guys approve it, then this is what's signed and goes into effect. Okay, general revenue. So this, in the past, it had been in the middle of the budget under the non-departmental, but we want to be clear and make it again more transparent and more easier to follow. So we have put this in the beginning. These are all the revenues that we have, the fund balance and other funding that's in this portion right here. So if anybody wants to know where we get the revenues from operations, is in this part right here. Again, it was buried in the back, in the middle, and you really couldn't, if you were the average person reading, you couldn't find it. Now we'll go through explanation of each department. Under this tab, you'll find the summary of revenues and expenditures, the department's mission statement, services, the budget highlights, significant accomplishments, future issues, their performance metrics, and line item budget. And we'll go ahead and get started with this. And if there's questions, when I say nothing stands out here, to me it doesn't, but it might to you. So if you have questions, please feel free to ask. Under governing body, I didn't have anything that stood out. Governing body. Under county manager, I didn't have anything that stood out here. Of course, I wouldn't have anything, but no, there's really nothing there. Public information officer, you'll notice the metrics have it as non-applicable. The reason is Daniel's new, and he's gonna establish his own metrics. These metrics here were established by a previous PO. The budget only reflects a 1% increase from last year. Safety and risk, I didn't have anything here to point out.
What about the insurance? Insurance was a big issue last year due to non-reporting and lack of transparency, so.
Chris?
That was only one specific line item of insurance.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir. Did you ever get an answer? I know we had to be a little bit more stern to get information back.
So I reached out to, our broker and the Travelers, and they're still working on, getting us some concrete rates. They just kind of threw out a line change, that we should be in the next probably 3 weeks getting some concrete numbers. They didn't have anything for this meeting, but, they're looking at probably wanting to see another 12 months of improvement from the sheriff's office before we can possibly get anywhere close to what we were, before all of this began.
And I believe there's also been some communication that even past that, there is some relief in sight, which would, I don't know that it would take effect next fiscal year, but the following fiscal year. And that'd be a change in leadership in that office.
So there has been some communication, that, you know, there were some concerns about the leadership, and the, you know, kind of communication and things being done as far as how maybe they had requested it to be done in a timely manner. So, we've tried to reassure them that our policies and our stance from the county level has remained steadfast, but, you were privy to those emails.
Yes, sir. An email, dated March the 4th, changes in leadership do have an impact on the way they view accounts. And would definitely, be something that, I would imagine it would have some bearing on how the underwriter views that line of coverage. So, yeah.
Okay.
But we don't have any information at this point. Yes, sir. Mr. Richards.
Chris, for the public's benefit, you can affirm that we have checked other sources, other providers for insurance, and we're seeking the most likely spot to reduce the cost of insurance for the county.
That is correct, Mr. Richards.
Charlie, do you have a question?
Well, I just wanted to be sure, that it may be in another area, but, so right now, we're assuming the same additional cost for our premium of $190,000.
As the worst case scenario, we're looking at a potential, decrease, small in manner. They are still unsure about leadership.
And we're calculating, we're anticipating worst case.
That's
So,
correct.
okay, that's fine.
That's correct.
You guys, okay to proceed? All right, thank you, Chris.
Thank you, sir.
Under HR, we're recommending a new position. This would be for a senior
Can you hold on
administrator.
just a second? Roy, are you getting the? Okay, okay. I just got a message from somebody saying they couldn't hear, but you're picking it up.
The microphones that we have is a ceiling mic, and this one here for the staff.
Okay.
So if you could project more, that may help.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Under Human Relations on page 79, we're requesting a new position for a senior administrative specialist. This would be a mid-level administrative assistant that does a lot of the office work. When I say they need it, this is one position they need. Don't know where we're gonna put them, but they need it because oftentimes they'll be here till 6:30 at night, and they just need. We've got a lot more turnover, a lot more retirees, a lot more work for them, and they do a very good job and work very hard. So I would highly recommend supporting this request. They also have in there that you all have conveyed to us is important is organizational training for leadership, and supervision, skill training, and emerging leaders. Again, this is to build our leadership and for some succession planning.
Point if I could there, in regard to HR, this mid-level, are you expecting to hire from within and then replace at a lower, level?
It depends. I mean, I would say that they will probably get somebody outside because they've got their specific areas covered within HR. They've got very good people that they're separating their own functions, so this would be somebody probably from the outside. Finance, I don't have anything here. Actually, it's a negative 4%. Tax, I didn't have anything here. Page 97, though, if you'll flip to page 97, we are putting $200,000 into the tax revaluation. If we're estimating that to be $1 million for the next revow. As we've discussed before, and what we're recommending is a 4-year revaluation. We're gonna go out for RFPs to find out exactly how much those services cost. The revow, top to top, if we started the revow, we start in 2026, in late 2027, and then be available by 2028.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Lance, if we could just, talk about the revals. When we did our previous, we did the full list of measure. Could you just sort of, I know we had previous discussions about the tiers of revals and how we would like to proceed moving forward.
Yeah, the one that we did, I would call the Cadillac version. This one, right, that we're gonna do now is like the Toyota version. It's gonna be desktop and maybe a combination of desktop drive-by, but mostly desktop. So it's gonna go back to what we did years ago.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr.
Again, the main reason is because we dropped 7% within the revow time, and I'm afraid that we'll go below 85, so I don't want us to lose that 1.2 that we lost the previous year from public utilities. Legal, nothing stands out here in legal. Elections, I don't have anything that would stand out in elections. Registered deeds, on page, not in registered deeds itself, but page 20, I just want to point out, on page 20 is your registered deeds automation and preservation. I just want to give kudos to Ben. He does a great job in preserving those books. He gets these disaster safe binders. If you haven't seen them, they're waterproof and fireproof, and he's replacing the books every year and is doing a great job with that. So hopefully he'll continue this process to make them all fireproof and waterproof. Information technology, again, we're recommended to use the fund balance for a purchase of a one-time vehicle. IT, again, I won't reiterate that, but they're using an old van now. GIS, Geographic Information System, that nothing stands out there. In engineering, Ronnie's intention, and he said I could say this, to retire within a year, and we need to find a replacement to learn all the facets of the operations for Mr. Tate overseas. And we've included funding that position from the fund balance since it's not a recurring cost for one time. Capitalized capital outlay, we have $200,000 in there for the Ag Center for the replacement of the flooring, as I mentioned earlier. And we have, people keep stealing our signs, so we're having to, or damage our signs. We've got $30,000 additional dollars in there for road sign replacements. So if you guys have any solutions on how to stop this stealing the signs, greatly appreciate it.
They utilize every penny of that every year, because the fastest we put them up, we just put them up.
Mr. Chairman, is there a particular sign that's very vulnerable? What
There
are the
are
signs
several,
people
but I
want?
don't want
Yeah,
to
if
say
it's
those
green,
out.
it's green.
Well, there's several that have unique names that I would prefer not to discuss.
Okay, all right, I understand.
They disappear quickly,
Gotcha, okay, thank you.
and my road happens to be one, so
So if we change the name, it might help.
it may help, yeah.
I suggest you talk to Wake County. They used to have a lizard lick. People would line up on Saturday night to steal the lizard lick sign.
I will say they're trying different strategies, different types of poles. I mean, we changed the signs and how they bolt them to it, and then they just started stealing the pole and the sign. So it's.
We make them taller, you know, what?
I should ask Sam this. Have we ever caught anybody stealing the sign?
Sir, you asked me questions.
Have you ever caught anybody stealing the road sign?
I think we have charged before, but it has been historically an issue.
It's just, it's a shame, that's a lot of money.
This farm on Warm Road, there was a post that took about 30 feet up in the air, so that did, I think that's stayed for a long time.
Page 146 is the Judicial Center, and again, that's in Ronnie's budget, but that's, the building's, I said 12 or 13, it's 15 years old, so we're seeing the need for more repairs and cost. On page 148, again, just to reiterate, the cost of the landfill used to come out of the general fund, now it's coming out of the landfill enterprise fund, so that helps us out in the general fund. Non-departmental, you have in here the 401k contribution of 1%. There's 50,000 in there for the manager to have flexibility when hiring. And what that's for is if we have somebody who's got good experience, like 10, 15 years in DSS or in deputies, then we're allowed to go above minimum. Typically we hire at minimum, but if they've got some experience, we go above minimum. Or if they get a certification in a course or something, and it makes them better at their jobs, we give them a little bump. We're paying for the compensation pay plan for the Piedmont Triad Regional Council out of this, funding to implement phase 2 of the pay plan, and the biggest change in non-departmental is that we moved the general revenue into the front, as I mentioned earlier, because it was buried here, we really couldn't find it. EMS. We're recommending that we hire 2 EMS basic EMTs. We currently operate 8 to 5. This will allow us to run 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. 7 days a week, so 7, 7, 7. An example would be, I just did a ride along, and with the incident that happened in Eden, minutes before, I had 2 seasoned people that I was riding with, ALSs, and lady had fallen in her house. We hadn't heard anything all morning, so I rode with him to pick up the lady at the house. Well, that occupied 2 ALS, and they had to continue with that call because they were answering that call. And that they could have freed that up for that. Those EMTs could have taken care of the smaller things. When I say small, I don't mean to minimize that, but they can take care of the less life-threatening things. So we're recommending that you all consider that. The recommended budget also has new ambulance and pre-med. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I have a question, maybe for you, maybe for Mr. Gates. How many vacancies do we have at the moment? 4. Okay. So that's significantly less than where we were just a couple years ago. That's correct. And while I've got you, how have things been proceeding with our EMS Academy?
If you could come forward, please, so people at home can hear the answer.
We've had 2 EMS academies that were very successful, but with our attrition rate declining greatly, we have only run 2, and we're gonna have a need for 2. They were very successful, but we've not had a need to run those in the last year or so.
Because of where we are with staff.
Correct.
And there was previously conversations about advancing people to higher levels through an academy like that. Have we had any more conversations?
We've actually had people that started in the very first academy that had advanced to phase 2, which was EMT advanced, and they did that, and then they went on to the paramedics. And they are actually serving as a released paramedic now. We have some other people that have progressed to the advanced EMT level and are currently researching moving on into the paramedic program. So we are seeing the progression, perhaps not as quickly as we thought, but we are seeing progression. And not moving so quickly is actually good because they're gaining experience at each levels of practice and then when they're comfortable moving to the next level. But the end result, we're turning out more advanced life support providers.
And it sounds like they're staying in the county.
They are, yes, sir.
Excellent. Thank you, Ms. Gates.
And that goes to what you all do every year is doing the increases. That helps be more manageable and compared to these other counties. So we're able to keep staff here where in the past we're losing those.
Thank you, Ms. Gates.
Yes, sir.
EMS, just the mention of the vehicles, the new ambulance, as I mentioned, and replacement of Rodney's vehicle and remount. Also under EMS, we have provided a signed memorandum of understanding for the Madison Rockingham Rescue Squad. neither Kate's nor I have heard any progress from them, and so we have not recommended funding that rescue squad in my budget. And I don't know, Kate, if you want to elaborate any.
I shared some information, Mr. Berger, with you yesterday, and I've shared it with Lance. We have a timeline. The timeline's been spelled out, and it was hand-delivered to the their board of director head back in 2016, April the 5th of 2024, hand-delivered of what has led us up to suspending them to only a mutual aid response, recommended actions that they should take. There's correspondence back and forth with me to their board about what their direction was going to be. We've not seen that direction. They have had turnover within their board due to people stepping down, the board chair stepping down. Their most previous board member, who was Ryan Clark, did make a statement that they had intentionally not made any changes because they felt that they would not be returned to automatic aid, and they didn't want to make changes for no reason. The evidence that they were given and the documentation they were given clearly shows that there needed to be change, whether the county took any action on them or not. And they have willfully chosen, for whatever reason, not to make those changes. So therefore, their status has not changed. They're still on mutual aid. They're only called if they're needed. So that's why Lance and I in our discussions feel that it's only fair that if we have rescue squads on automatic aid, if they are not on automatic aid, then in the fairness of the situation and the operation, that they should not be funded at $16,000.
Over the past year, we have funded them quarterly instead of annually.
Yes,
as far as the amount that, the dollar amount we've issued checks for. I know we've had some discussions, and I know we may have had somebody in some of those meetings. Don't know if they were in all of them or not, as far as a board member from here. I've talked to some of their board members. Personally, I'd like to see us continue this for another year and see where it falls. I don't know how everybody feels. Mr. Barrel and I have had a couple of conversations about this. Any thoughts?
I would move that we continue to fund the Madison Manor Rescue Squad for another year. I do have one question, Rodney, that you may be able to answer, Mr. Gates, if you may be able to answer. Even with automated dispatch, what is the sort of rate, because it's, they're volunteers. So when we put out a call to the Eden Rescue Squad or Reese Rescue Squad, what percentage of calls do they respond to when they're called?
You're asking me what percentage does Eaton respond to?
Right, if the city of Eden or if us put out a call to the Eden Rescue Squad and said we need somebody, I know it's volunteer, so they don't always have people available. Do they come 100% of the time? Do they come 50% of the time? I'm just curious.
I don't have a definite metric on it, but I would say they have paid people in the daytime, so their response it's a high percentage. I don't know what number,
High
but it
percentage.
would be, I would say 80 to 90% of the time they have people there.
And is it the same with Reesville?
Yes.
Okay.
Reidsville is a bit of a different dynamic because a lot of the Reidsville calls are in the Reidsville city limits, of which Reidsville runs medical calls. So a lot of times that potentially could be a duplication of effort, but they still, they are much more robust now than they were, and their response level is quite high at this time as well.
Thank you, Mr. Gates.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
The Madison Rescue Squad, wasn't there a contract put together and sent to them? Was it ever signed and brought
Signed
back?
by us and the rescue squad.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else got any thoughts about?
Well, I have several concerns, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
I know that several of the fire departments had issues with their response and with their actions when they would arrive on the scene of an accident. If it was one or two departments, I'd say, well, it's a personality conflict. But when it's so many different departments, it seems to be a procedural issue. And I just don't see that they've made any progress based on Mr. Cates' report. So, you know, if I'd seen some movement, I would feel fine funding them. I particularly don't care to continue funding them. But, you know, this is a request of the board. I don't see the use in doing it when they have so many fire departments with issues with them.
And understand, I've heard some of those same concerns, from different fire departments and through, Lance and Kate's, and, I guess my thought is if it's funded quarterly and, our board members end up with a more active role with some of their board members, then, we could certainly make changes during the year if necessary, but see if it's something that we can't get rectified.
I agree, if we could, you know, cut it down to smaller chunks where they could show some progress and willingness to make these changes that I won't say that we need, but the other fire departments need, as well as us. You know, I'd be willing to continue working with them on a quarterly basis.
And having an office, there in Madison, it's something that I've heard from folks on the street, and a concern of what happens if they're not there. Now, whether that concern is something that they're perceiving because they mix up rescue and EMS, I can't answer that question. But that concern is there in the public. And so with that concern, and the fact that we're funding them quarterly, I would want to continue for another period of time to see if some things can get worked out. And maybe with a more active role in trying to get that sorted out. Maybe it doesn't work, I don't know, but you know, that's just.
Well, I'm willing for us to continue funding them on a remedial basis, but at the same time, I feel like we need to see some kind of progress towards the agreement that was developed, if I understand, not by us, but in conjunction with fire departments and other parties. Is that right?
That's correct. That's right.
Mr. Richardson.
I think the bottom line to me is the level of degradation as far as public safety is concerned. And I would have to rely on you and the rest of the experts in this area about this. I certainly concur with the conversation I've heard between the chair and Commissioner Paul. If we need them, we need them. And we need to take action that encourages to move towards more collaboration with the other emergency response team included in the contract.
Yes. Guys, I mean, based on the conversation, I'm hearing a little bit of a mix, and maybe let's continue. Mr. Kellum, I haven't heard you express an opinion on this.
I'm a lot like what Commissioner Hall is saying. Without a lot of progress, it makes it harder for me to say I want to fund them. If we're on a quarterly basis, then do we review it every quarter to see their progress and make another decision? Do we go for another quarter, or do we reduce them?
Well, and what we can do, if it is quarterly, and this was discussion that we had before when it went to quarterly, was that we could change it at any point in time, if we're not seeing anything. So, the answer to that is yes, we could.
Okay, how would we know that they are making improvements, that they are going by certain guidelines, changing? One, I think, was chain of command issues.
We give them a list of things, and if again, some of you have gotten some information from them about some of the progress. We haven't gotten anything officially from them on the progress. I hear they are making that, so we just need to.
If I may, I've had conversations with a couple of board members, and reiterated to them that it's important that they have somebody that then designated to be in contact with county administration, because if they are making progress toward things, we don't know it because nobody's talking to us.
Yes, sir.
There was a willingness when I spoke with a board member to make sure that that happens. I believe prior to the contract, there was a memo sent out in April of '24 where Mr. Cates had made 4 recommendations to them that they take care of that. Those 4 have not been completed. And additionally, Mr. Cates brought to my attention that they are behind on filing some paperwork as far as finances go.
2 years, was that?
2 years. So I would, if I could ask you to, if you could split that together in an email and send it to Mickey and the other board members, just so that, in case they're not watching right now, I know they have that information. And then, as long as everybody knows what we're working toward, hopefully we'll see some progress in that.
So, I guess what I'm hearing is y'all are okay with the quarterly funding and continue that moving forward. I think we'll need some sort of motion as far as for Lance to make changes either tonight or at our June meeting. But certainly if we can make the motion today, it'll simplify things for him as far as what he brings to us in June.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion that we continue funding all 3 rescue squads at the current level, with the understanding that we will be in better communication with Metzler and Rescue for progress going forward.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Kellum, all in favor, let me know by the sound of aye. Aye. Any opposed?
All right, in case they ask any questions. Fire marshal, we moved the emergency management position under the fire marshal so that we can split the position for fire marshal / emergency management. There's a part-time position in there. I think, Kevin, you heard last night that we're gonna do inspections for Med and the fire inspections, and we just have offset revenues for the town, but I want to make sure that you all do that. Emergency management, again, we removed that position, put that in fire marshal. 911 warning communications, there's nothing really stands out there, or in emergency services. And that's all I have for Mr. Cates. You have any other questions or comments from Rodney?
I don't believe so. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cates.
Yes, Chair. I'm sorry.
I would ask that we do develop something to look at progress and try to have some goalposts for this first quarter, because my feelings are, if we can't see some progress during this first quarter, I'm gonna vote that we do not continue funding past the first quarter. So that would be.
Based on Commissioner Berger's comments, we'll send a very detailed email to their interim president and chairperson, and we'll just see what comes from that.
I back Commissioner Hall in that.
So I believe if you could make a note to have an update for us at the first meeting in September.
Okay.
I believe that would take care of it. Well, actually, I'm just going from now, so it'll be September or October. I think from now, we ought to be able to have it come back in September.
Right.
I mean, yeah, first meeting in September.
Okay. Do that.
Just for clarification, Mandy, aren't they funded every quarter now? Are all 3
Yes.
rescue squads, they're funded every quarter?
Yeah.
Yes. So that's the funding model that's in place at this time.
Yes, sir.
On page 190, I'm sorry, did you say something?
You just said thank you.
Oh, thank you. Page 192, the recommended budget reflects a $75,000 decrease in medical examiner. Our actual expenditure is $73,000 for this past year. The costs are unpredictable, but they have gone up in their autopsy fees from $1,750 to $3,625. This one fluctuates. Next, the sheriff's department.
I think Commissioner Richardson asked for a break.
Oh.
We better get into this one, so.
Sounds
if
good.
We can stand in recess for 5 to 10 minutes. Okay. Stand in recess for 5 to 10 minutes. thank you for that recess. And next, go ahead, Lance. We'll
I'm
next
gonna
on the sheriff.
start with, talk about the sheriff's department and the jail, and I'm sure that we'll want some, more information, but I'm just gonna basically go over what in a nutshell, what it is. The sheriff's department, the budget increase, I'm sorry.
Please do me a favor.
Yes, sir.
Several folks said they're not having trouble, just move the microphone in front of you, so.
Are they having a hard time hearing me?
Some of them.
That's a surprise.
Yeah.
I can talk louder.
Yeah.
And then we'll get people over here, I guess, so we can move it.
Yes.
Is that better?
I think so.
Okay.
Hope so.
You get a text, just let me know, say, move it closer. Sheriff's Department went up almost $1.4 million. The increases I'll elaborate on are from the salaries, the separation allowance, overtime on-call, FICA retirement, 401K, supplemental, workers' comp. $500,000 increase comes from the pay plan, from the phase one pay plan. There is an increase in overtime of $10,000 due to vacant positions in both patrol and detectives. There's a recommendation to reclassify court services record clerk to a senior administrative specialist. Basically, she's just doing those, she's already doing those positions. They just need to reclassify her to that position, because she's already doing those services. Increase $35,000 to reflect actual expenditures for vehicle repairs. Increase roughly $310,000 with general insurance. This includes the law enforcement liability, and $100,000 for the jail deductible. This $100,000 is coming from the canteen fund. Recommending 8 night vision devices for the SRT, or the Specialized Response Team. Capitalized capital, requesting to purchase and replace 10 vehicles. This would allow all vehicles to be, that are assigned to people, to be replaced every 10 years. And again, 1 civil, 6 patrol, 2 detectives, and 1 investigative detective. And I'll hit jail and animal control, and then we'll get the sheriff's department up here if you have any questions. The jail increased $1.1 million, and again, these increases, we work with their staff, with Gray, Jennifer, and Wendell, and I mean everything that we've seen in there is pretty. It's just an increase, and it's because they're a large department, and they did have that impact from the compensation pay plan. Jails and salary increased by $210 because of the pay plan. Professional services and contracts, again, they have increased across the board, not just with the sheriff's department, but just with every department. Inmate medical service, we have 24-hour nursing. Medications have gone up. The inmates are having just more complex medical conditions that we've seen in the past. Food services have increased by roughly 80% due to a 5% increase from our vendor. We have added something new that they are recommending that we see justification in, is that we offer staff 1 meal per day, which is $4 per meal. Total budget of that's $29,000. Reason is that we're so short-staffed over there, they don't have time to go out and get lunch. So I mean, it's not the greatest meal, but it's a meal that we can offer if they decide to take that. Capitalized capital. You got a question? Okay, sorry.
No, but the 29,000 is a lot cheaper than the salary if they can help.
Yeah, transport van, again, that's coming from we're recommending coming from fund balance. And the capitalized capital is the phase 2 of the jail CIP, which is the jail doors, the showers, the plumbing that we discussed earlier. And animal control, I didn't see anything in there that really stood out. So do you want anybody from the sheriff's department or to answer any questions? I mean,
Yes.
okay.
Sure.
Do we have enough chairs? There's a reference there. You guys need a reference. Let me pull that up.
Gentlemen, do you want me to start, or y'all want to start? I guess for me, on page, I believe that's 196, Sheriff's Administrative, Civil, and Records. As far as the goals, I believe you've got some information here about civil service. Where is this data maintained?
But the effective process service, is that what you're speaking to?
Yes, effective service of civil process, you've got some numbers there, as far as the targets and the actual service. Where can we find supporting data for that?
We have a records management system that
Okay.
was installed by the county that we maintain all of our information in. So the paperwork is entered into the system by records personnel when the papers come in. And then the service is entered again by records personnel when the civil officers serve the papers. So I'm able to go in there and look at a report that specifically indicates how many papers have been served within a time period that I input that reflects what quarter we are in.
Okay. All right, and I guess just being at the courthouse quite a bit, one of the things I constantly hear is struggling with getting papers served. I know the DA's office is having to serve papers on law enforcement for folks in criminal court. And so I'm just wondering, is there anything else taking place to improve those numbers or?
To improve the numbers on effective service of civil process?
Well, not with the DA's office, but I mean, just service overall. There's concerns I just keep hearing rumblings. I know one attorney, it was returned that he couldn't be served because couldn't find him. And it was just, and I get it, sometimes we hear, sometimes folks are louder on issues than maybe they should be. Not disputing that, but, I see red X's based on your targets.
And we set these targets, I will go ahead and tell you that we have much longer to actually serve these papers than we actually set the target dates for. So although you see those red X's, it does not mean that the papers were not served within the allotted time period by state law or by the civil process statutes that we go by. So please understand that these papers were still served. This is just the goal that we set, which the officers are working very hard. When you think about the fact that we have 3 civil process officers that serve in the cities and the county, the whole entire county, there's a lot of papers that go through. So being over this division, I'm extremely proud of the work that they are doing, but I do want you to understand that just because you see that X does not mean that the papers were not served in the manner that is required by law. I do want to make that very clear.
And as far as criminal service,
Yes.
I know Commissioner Hall and myself had somebody reach out about service of warrants. Is there a database that keeps up with service of warrants?
There is of course, the service of warrants has gone electronic several years back. We do have, and this is not one of our goals, but we could get that information. We do keep up with monthly reports on all of our process, whether it be criminal, civil, whether it is your basic type of paper like a civil summons, or if it's a subpoena, or if it's a criminal process. So all that would take would be someone to inquire. We do keep monthly data on that as well.
So they could reach out to you then?
Yes, they could reach out to me, Captain over patrol, the division, who is the one who actually our patrol officers serve our criminal warrants and that type of thing. But anyone would be glad to assist.
Thank you.
Yes.
Because I think they also reached out to the clerk.
They did.
So that's, then objective 1, as far as on this year's, minimize cost of workplace incidents. Last year, we had some numbers there that went back to fiscal year 21. This year, we just got plugged in, not Apple. I know we talked about expanding objectives, but I'm just curious why it's there and then it's got NA.
I don't understand why that's like that
In this
myself.
component, we did address some of these, and those measures are going forward. The problem, the way this is reported in our budget book, is we are a complete year from behind from when we tried to make those changes last year. You will see those updated numbers in the upcoming budget cycle, but this is the reflective of almost a year behind.
So basically, we'll make a change, it's 2 years out.
When it makes it to
before we
this
see
book,
anything.
the measures that she works on and stuff, we look at quarterly, but by the time it makes it to this budget book, the way it's reported is more than a year behind.
Okay. And goal 5, objective 1, can you help me understand as far as the bond policy that the judges issue, how that falls under the sheriff's office?
I will ask, if you don't mind, Captain Wendell Brown to come forward.
Oh, that's fine.
Would you mind, sir? This falls under the court services and the information that's gathered there.
We may need to adjust where that microphone is located. I don't know, but just for the folks at home.
And while he's coming up, some of these objectives we have changed, and there are actually new objectives in the current year we're in that are not reflected here, and you will see the cycle later.
Do you see where I'm talking, Captain Brown?
No, sir.
Okay, it's the bottom of that page under goal 5, objective 1. Talks about a percentage of unsecured, secured bond amounts issued by the judges. I'm just curious how that's fallen under the sheriff's office when it's bonds of judges. I understand that there's got to be constant communication when we have someone with health issues and trying to assess that situation. And I don't know if that's why it's here. I don't know if it's something else.
Yes. Okay. I'm not exactly sure,
Okay.
what this measure is, but just reading it, I believe that it's saying that, if a judge gives us an inmate an unsecured bond, we're doing exactly what it said. Whether that be an unsecured bond with EHA or an unsecured bond by itself.
It just talks about adhere with the bond policy. We're giving ourselves 100% compliance, and so, but I'm just, with it being judicial bonds, just more curiosity than anything. So.
And we can get more specific information by contacting our court services personnel that handles this. It's part of the
Okay.
sheriff's office that handles this on a daily basis. They do keep a report of everything that they do,
Right.
specifically related to the court services where they make contact with the inmates, their pretrial.
All right, and then, so maybe this is for Derek then, since you said that it takes basically 2 years for things to show up in the book after we do something, as far as goals. I know we had to make adjustments to our mission statement for transparency. Is there a reason transparency is not a goal here in some capacity?
I think it is. And what I'm saying is, this year, the first year that Olivia and I went through the budget, our focus was truly just the budget and not necessarily performance measures. This year, when we met with people and we even met with them outside of the budget cycle, we worked on making sure that the goals were actually measurable, and that the measurement meant something. So several departments through this process changed their goals, and then they will be updated as we go through these cycles. When we come to you guys in the fall, where we approve the performance measures and things like that, that's where you see a better alignment of the.
Hold on for just a second, since she's removing the microphone.
Apparently the battery's dead.
Don't mean to cut you off,
Oh, no,
but
it's fine.
just want to make sure folks can hear and.
No pressure.
you need a test of any sort? Are you good? You good? Okay, go ahead, Derek.
So I think a shorter and clearer answer would be, I think the best thing for us to do is look at a better way to get this document where it's more current in this. Currently, this document and how it's put together follows by the budget guidelines that we have to turn in for the budget presentation. But it doesn't mean that we can't do something above and beyond that. So maybe we look at how we can change it so you can see a reflective of more current. Because last year you made some suggestions on measures, not only in the sheriff's department, but we looked at others as well. So I think we just work at getting a better way to show that data quicker.
Okay, and I mean, I know we also put some things in place as far as with risk management, where with the sheriff's office, it's the only office that we had to send a daily email asking, did anything go wrong yesterday? And maybe that can tie in as far as the responses. I think it's been very responsive since we put that daily, what messed up yesterday email in place. But that might help with that transparency goals and compliance.
And I don't think there would be any opposition if you guys are interested in it, is we look at these measures quarterly through the year. And some of these goals are measured, you can kind of see the data at one time, and some, it may take a whole year for the goal to come to fruition. But it's something that we obviously could give you an update throughout the year, so we're not waiting till after the fact before something is necessarily not meeting their goals. And I will say, in these goals, we challenged them, and it was a promise to me. I'm not gonna look at you negatively for not meeting your goal. These goals are not goals of this is what your job is. These goals are for us to stretch and do better for the public. So, if you're checking 100 box all the time, it says you're meeting your goal every time. I want you to stretch, because sometimes I want you to fail, because I want you to strive to do better for the public. So that's what these goals and objectives are about. Not that I do my job as what's required by law. And I know in DSS this year, we changed we looked at a lot of those. This is what's required by statute. Well, I want to go above and beyond what's required by statute. So I think if we could find a time once or twice a year that we report this to you outside of a budget cycle, may be beneficial.
Yeah.
And along those lines, I think one of the constant responses we've had from the state on the jail inspections and then from the insurance company has been lack of supervision. And actually, what the lady from the state said is it's a common issue. And so with that, if we can make adjustments as necessary under the jail goals, then that would be something that, certainly ever since the commissioners got involved, we've had better reports from the state. And then, I don't know if this is for Lance or Derek or the sheriff's office, but the vacant positions, the turnover, those lapsed salaries, from a budgeting standpoint, how is that handled during the year? And when I say handled during the year, so we're budgeting a tremendous amount of money for salaries. There's a number of vacancies in any department. And then those lapsed salaries, they can't be spent anywhere else. It's just for salaries. They can't be reallocated, correct?
They can be reallocated with the manager's approval for certain functions, yes. But it has to come through the manager for approval for that to occur.
Okay. And such as allowing a department to hire somebody above the pay scale. And I believe in the past, correct me if I'm wrong, is it 3 years? The sheriff's office had 15 above the pay scale. That, was it 3 years? Is that the
3, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And right now, well, the last time I checked, just to give you an idea of lapsed salaries, we got, it was 9 down to detention, there was 16. 2 bailiffs, 1 transportation, 3 investigators, and 4 patrol. That was the last time I checked. I didn't have, and 1 civil? 1 civil.
What's that total? I'm sorry, you
20 now.
20 now?
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to clarify, on the budgeting, we did something a little bit different this year related to the sheriff's department. And the reason is we are fully budgeted for full salary if they were fully staffed. But we're also budgeting increased overtime and increased part-time line items because for them to meet the requirements that they have, they're having to pay overtime and also pull in part-time workers where they can find to meet the jail obligations. So we were basically double budgeted. So if we were fully staffed, we wouldn't be using the overtime and part-time. And if we're not fully staffed, we're gonna use, so we did that 390,000 in the fund balance because it just offsets one or the other. So we just making sure we were not double budgeting in the book. And that's above and beyond that normal 2.5 million plug, because we're never gonna be fully staffed here. With 650 employees, you always have turnover. So that's above and beyond, and it's something different this year than we've done in the past due to the situation that they're in.
And I believe in the past, you indicated to me that there was some communication issues when people change roles.
That's correct.
And we're in the process of correcting that.
Yeah, I think we the sheriff's staff sat down with myself and HR, and Olivia, and we kind of sat down and showed the importance of making sure that communication comes to us when a position changes, so we know who their supervisor is for timekeeping. We make sure that we're paying for it out of the right budget line so that, everything is more transparent. And we make sure that any change or any raise or anything happens in a timely manner so we don't pay someone incorrectly. I think since then, we've done a much better job since we've had those conversations, but there were definitely challenges, and they're going to be highlighted when we go to our new software system. When we go to the new timekeeping and the new payroll system, if those things do not come in a timely manner, we will have payroll issues, and they will be quick to be recognized, where before, there was a lot of manual processes in the background that took care of that. So we've met with them to talk about the importance, and we've seen an increase, still not perfect, but we've definitely seen an improvement.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
while we're talking about some of these objectives and realizing that it takes, a year or better, and on the jail, we've had a couple of these that are kind of new. And while we have Captain Brown here, I wonder if he can update us maybe like the MAP program is scheduled to start this past February. And so we don't have data there. Can you give us an update on that? As well as the, well, let's do that first.
Which Captain? Okay.
Yeah, Captain Wentworth, excuse me, I'm sorry.
Currently, we have 6 on the MAP program. They're all continuation. We don't have anyone that we started in the jail on the MAP program. Started when they come to jail. Continuation is, they were in treatment before they come to jail. And once they come to jail, we have to continue that treatment. I think the MAP program is going pretty well. We have had some that have, we'll say, cheated the system. They cheeked their meds and they got caught and they were no longer on the program. But for the most part, everyone's doing what they're supposed to do.
One of the other new objectives is Goal 3, Objective 2. It's 100% of rounds late by 10 minutes or longer will be documented and addressed before the next shift.
Yeah.
So is that?
So I do an audit every week, and I look at the last day a shift worked, and I report back to the sergeant, and we discuss ways that they were late. Actually, I just did one this past Monday, and the lowest percentage that I had was 88%. The highest was 92.
Mr. Chair.
I got a quick question.
Mr. Richards?
While you're answering that question, again, publicly, I want to thank you for the tour of the jail. MAP program, I'm very interested in that. What's the process for you folks to recommend or put somebody on the MAP program?
Our nurses, our nursing company is Southern Health Partners. They have a scoring system, I think it's called the CAL system. And based off of the questions they ask the inmate during their initial med visit, that's how they determine who is put on MAP. As far as the criteria that they have, I wouldn't know it. I do know that they can't be on they can't use alcohol and opiates. Like if they take opiates, they can't drink alcohol. If they drink alcohol, they're kicked out of it.
Let me tell you where I'm coming from. There were a number of deaths in the jail, some of them related to drug overdose. My thought is that perhaps had those inmates been put on the MAP program, maybe that wouldn't have happened. And I guess it's an opinion question.
Yes.
Should more of the inmates be on the MAP program?
Yeah, that's something I can't answer. That's God. I can't answer that.
Of course, the MAP program would have had to have been in effect at the time of that occurred.
Sure, absolutely. I got it.
But, and I'm hearing the criteria has to be met. And that's, I guess in the future, and certainly since some of this stuff has started, the incidents there have, knock on wood, gone down tremendously.
Yes.
Thank you, Lance.
Yes.
Thank you, Captain Brown.
And I guess this is for Derek, just to make sure, the goal 3, objective 2 about making rounds, it's got, you know, within a certain time frame, it's got NA. Is that because it's?
That was a new measure, so we were not measuring it prior to that time.
Okay. Guys, do we have any other questions?
Mr.
Yes,
Chair.
sir.
When you were talking about, Captain Wendell Brown, when you were talking about the percentages lower during some of the rounds, could you let us know why the percentage was lower? What was causing it to where they couldn't make the rounds as necessary?
A lot of times we need 6. That's to have one person at every post. A lot of times that's what we're working with, okay? And as you all know, G&H pod, that's ran by one officer. And it's kind of hard to be in 2 places at one time. You can't make a round without being stopped by an inmate. You're going to be stopped. They're always going to want something. And that's, most of the time, that's where it happens, is in G&H. They're tied up in one pod. The other pod is late.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir. Mr. Barrett.
Captain Brown, you mentioned 6 currently on the MAP program that were already induced before they got to the jail. And I know we've only had this running for about 5 months. Do you know how many inmates have been induced into the MAP program since we began?
That we induced?
That we induced, yes, sir.
No, I don't. I don't believe it's been any, but I don't know for sure. That's not even a measure
It's okay.
I have.
It's okay. No, it's okay. Thank you very much.
Just one question, since it's a question on the assessment, we might be able to provide that for you so you can see yourself what the requirements are to be placed on MAT. I think that might help. Under the ADA rules, if they're already on that, receiving it, when they come in, we have to under the rules, but I think that might be helpful to you also.
To your point, Sheriff, we have a lot of discussion about if someone has an alcohol addiction, where they're going through withdrawals. Obviously, there's different medications that you use versus if someone has an addiction to opioids. Just the way that Captain Brown phrased it, and I know that this is not your specialty, so I don't want you to think that I'm trying to pick on you. I would like to know sort of what Southern Health Partners standard is. Is it simply the question, when they're doing the questionnaire, do you use alcohol? And if they say yes, then all of a sudden they're disqualified. Because there's a big difference between using alcohol and being alcohol dependent as far as receiving opioid services.
Yes, sir, and we can get that for you.
Thank you very
Yes,
much.
yes, sir, thank
Thanks,
you.
Sheriff.
Anything more from Lynn?
I guess, has there been anything to address the turnover rate? Has there been anything to address that?
Well, if you're talking about hiring and retention, we can get into the conversation of salaries, competitiveness, and we can get into benefit reductions. We can do that. But as far as turnover rate, we've had people retire. And we've had a lot of good persons retire. We've had a few separate. We've had to separate. But we've had quite a bit of retirement. We're going to have retirement. We're going to have an additional bailiff position open in July 1. And as far as projections, it goes back to recruiting. We're doing everything we can to recruit, and with our allocated funding, we're trying to make sure people know what services we have available for employment, what we provide, and then what the job estails. But we still have to continue doing our jobs and continue recruiting just about every day. So as far as hiring and retention, we're doing everything we can to retain good people that we have, and we're trying to do everything we can to hire people through any type of opportunity to go to a job fair, whether it be at the college or go to a university, any place we can go that we can get to and we know about, we're going to go. But we're also competing with every agency in the county, every agency surrounding the county, and every jail in this region here. And when I've talked to sheriffs across the state, and they've told me that manpower is one of the biggest things they're having problems with, and a lot of it comes back to being competitive in pay and benefits and stuff. Plus, in the jail side, also, we add on environment, because you gentlemen did a tour, and you got to see for yourself the environment that you're working in, and not every person can do that. It takes a special person, and we want to try to keep them, we want to try to retain them, we want to try to look after them.
Thank you. I believe, thank you. Lance, as far as going into this budget cycle, I believe there's only 2 departments in the region that have higher pay than the Rockingham County Sheriff's Office. Is that right? Going into this budget cycle now, I don't know what they're doing.
The compensation plans are being huge, but.
And that
yes.
was the city of Greensboro, and was it Forsyth County? Is that the 2 departments that were hired? And that's based on information you gathered, right? Okay, thank you.
I just want to add that just within the county, if we're talking one officer position, we're actually number 3 in starting pay in the county, and we're the largest agency in the county in law enforcement.
This is based on the pay plan that's previously.
I understand, but I just want to be clear that, I've looked at the pay salaries in the county and surrounding the county, and there's some agencies that pay pretty high.
And how much have we increased funding for the sheriff's office in the last 2 years?
It's sheriff's last 2 years, about a little less than $3 million, just in the sheriff's department.
Could we be specific on what that is, if you
Most of it's
want to
salary.
talk about it? And we could talk about the other divisions of the county and their salaries being increased as well and changing their bottom line.
Well, yeah, this was just the overall budget.
Right,
And I'm
it's salaries.
saying that I'm sure it
It's
is.
salary.
Yes.
I mean, most of it is. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks, Sheriff. Thank you, Captain Berger, Captain Berger.
Thank you. And Lance,
Yes,
just,
sir.
I guess one more thing. I mean, you met with department heads going in through the budget, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
It's only one department that the department head didn't show up.
That's correct.
Which department was that, please?
Sheriff's office.
Thank you. And that's actually something that happens on a regular basis for the past 10 years, is that right?
And we have monthly department head meetings and.
No show from anyone from the office, or just?
From the office.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, let me proceed.
Yes, sir.
Okay, on page 23, the only thing to point out here is juvenile detention. We've dropped that, because we've only spent $61,000. Realizing again, this is uncertainty. We don't, with juvenile detention, we don't know how many juveniles we'll have in detention, so it may fluctuate, it may be higher next year. We just dropped it this year because of the experience we have. Animal shelter, recommending, again, a position there, an animal shelter coordinator, who will oversee adoptions, spay neuter programs, rescues, grants, records. Basically, we need somebody up front full-time. We have people, the young lady that's up front, oftentimes she'll be in the back, she'll be back there, working, and when she's not up front, we need somebody up front to pay full attention to everything that maneuvers up front. We got dinged on that in our inspection, and I think it's just crucial that we have somebody up front at all times, to serve it. And they really do a great job over there. Also, we're recommending to start a low-cost, community spayed neuter program. These funds will be offset by the state, so offset by either the state or self-pay if they make over a certain amount.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
So this would be needs-based, is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir.
And obviously, if somebody comes to adopt an animal, we don't typically ask for their W-2. So how would we assess whether or not there was a need for us to spay or neuter a dog?
It would basically go to everybody. I mean, everybody would get an opportunity to get spayed and neutered.
Okay.
I mean, when I say self-pay, it's part of it, but it's state will cover it.
We just want to have less stray dog and cats out there on the
That's
street.
correct.
Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Veterans Court, this is a new program. Thanks to Chairman Berger and his efforts to get that group to come in here to talk to us. The veterans that, actually, the majority of the funds will be federal funds. We're using roughly $30,000 from the canteen fund for a part-time position that we need over there. The expected date to have the first participation is May 27th.
Just for clarification, is that from the canteen funds or the video game fund that the sheriff has for his inmates?
Same thing.
Right, we moved a lot of that, we moved a lot of that money, and I'm just curious, is it coming out of actual candy bar sales or?
No, the video, the canteen, the canteen, the video.
Okay.
Yep. Inspections, the only thing I have in there is just to replace one of the building inspector's vehicles that has high mileage. Planning, really nothing there. We're just down a planner. We have Adam that's a senior planner, but we're down a position and we're not having a whole lot of luck finding a regular planner. In code enforcement, not sure if the sheriff's office will consider filling the second position. Have not indicated one way or the other. I don't know. We've got one code enforcer, and it's really taxing his time.
And I believe you also offered them an additional sworn officer, and
It was,
turned that down.
went to another position. Yeah. Yep.
Question. This is somewhat theoretical, but I'm thinking about inspections in particular, and there are other similar sort of positions, planning and so forth. In the emergency response area, and fireman area, we set up helped set up a fireman's academy and an EMS academy, basically growing our own. Is there scope to ask the college to help us with something similar? They do trade training, that sort of technical thing, and as part of that, is there potential to grow our own?
I had that very conversation with Dr. Kinlaw when he was there. Nothing really moved with that, but I'll continue the conversations with Dr. Cox about the inspection, because I think that we would get a big draw. Number one, it's a fairly decent salary. Number two, the demand is incredible. And I'm not sure where the closest program is. I don't know if it's in Guilford or not. Do you guys know? The inspections, do you know if it's in Guilford? I think Guilford might offer one, but it would be a conversation that we'll have.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Can I piggyback on Commissioner Richardson for a minute? So you say it's a pretty good salary. What is the starting salary for those inspection positions?
What for just this is level one,
Yes, sir.
and then they move up by 15,000 and all that. But the level one, do you know how much that is?
And I know that we are not the only, governmental agency that is having issues with filling these positions, so
Roughly 50,000.
roughly 50,000, this is something that could be completed at a community college.
Yes.
And there's very much a need from everybody I speak to in all the municipalities. So I do think, if the community college would be interested in trying to, look for a path forward, it could be an opportunity.
We've actually talked to the other municipalities about doing the countywide inspections, that the county would be over countywide inspections. We've had some good feedback from most of the towns and cities.
We do have a growth path in that inspection, so if you move along and get your certificates as fast as you can, because you have to get a certificate and have to work a certain period of time. But within 5 years, just with certificates that you could get an additional $20,000.
Yeah, that's the program you guys did a couple of years ago.
That's a great program.
Um,
We're training a lot of folks for other counties, has been our
Well,
experience.
they actually they've been pretty steady here, fortunately. Now, yes.
As we've adjusted salaries across the board, I mean,
We've had a lot less turnover than we've had in the past.
all but one area.
Yeah, that's correct.
And also in some municipalities, they might even get you a chauffeur if you have a credential like this, so.
True.
Next.
Central permitting, there's, nothing that really stands out there. Those of you who've been on board, you know this, but for the benefit of Jeff, airport, we contribute every year $70,000 for their operations. We contribute $16,667 for their non-primary entitlement grant, which goes towards the match. We do that
And
every year.
this goes back to something I asked about earlier, and that is this social media group that has little intelligence. A lot of the money that we've gotten as far as the airport is earmarked for the airport.
Absolutely.
We can't spend it elsewhere. It's actually funding that came through the legislature, through Senator Berger, my father, and then Representative Pirtle has helped on the House side. But the vast majority has come due to the leadership in the Senate.
That's right. We're just a sub-recipient. The money comes, we're passed through.
You can't spend it
No.
anything else.
Economic development tourism, the salary line includes a reclass position from a small business and EDC coordinator to an assistant project manager. On page 268 of this is the contributions, the industrial incentives, if you want to see those. Is there any question about those? Other economic development, again, this is benefit for Jeff, is that the county contributes $25,000 per year to Reedsville, and they contribute $25,000, so it's $50,000 for the maintenance of our industrial park. Cooperative extension, there's nothing that really stands out there. Page 284, soil and water. Nothing here except that we built a reserve of $200,000 for the farmland preservation program, and would recommend to continue building on this by putting 50% of the revenue collected from our land removed, from the present use value deferment program, and then the other 50 would go into the general fund. And again, I surveyed the counties. There's like 9 counties out of 100 that are doing this program. And that's been the practice for most of those counties. Some of them are larger and put a lot more into it, but the smaller rural counties like us, they do when land's taken out of the deferred payment program. So we'll be contributing to that, hopefully.
As things come out. So basically, what you're saying is if somebody was in an ag program, then that deferred tax, I believe what we talked about, 50% of it going into this and 50% just going
Correct.
into the general fund.
Yes, sir.
You have to pay the 3 years back taxes.
Yes.
Yes, so that 3 years back taxes, 50% would go into this program.
I'd like to point out for the public listening, this is a program I personally highly endorse, and it was recommended by my colleague, Mr. Berger here. amount of monies to actually subsidize the program, to create this easement are significantly beyond our capabilities. The monies we put in here now would probably be better used for administration simply because they're not large enough to pay off the difference between a commercial versus an agricultural piece of property. And I hope our citizens, and we've had a significant number of citizens apply for this program, a big increase in the past, and this is not to discourage them. They actually may get some help from us, but not in the actual procurement of the easement.
Question on that,
Yes.
as far as what type of deferred tax that's going into this, did y'all specify which ones?
I would assume it's the voluntary ag district, VADs.
Okay, but not forestry and not, let me see, what you got is ag, horticulture?
I guess it'd be all of them that come out from their, if they get deferred, whatever program it's in would come back.
So I can tell you, my experience has been having sold some property like this, with the entire acreage.
Good.
We had to pay back the deferred amount.
It would be all of them. I see what you're saying.
Well, but there's also some deferred programs that, of course, may not be involved with the farm portion of it. So just, my point is, we need to make sure that it's just the farm deferred program. And you got some old age exemption programs for homes, and you don't want that going into it.
It's the program that Desiree manages, so we would get a clarification of what each one of those was.
Okay, I just want to make sure that it's not all deferred and we kind of just.
No, the
I think
intent there is farmland or land preservation.
Okay.
And that would include forestry.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
I mean, that's fine. I mean, my initial thought was ag, horticulture, but not necessarily forestry, because, you know, the thing that you hear is preserve farmland. You don't, and although, people farm trees, but, you know, that's a long period of time, and it's not necessarily viewed the same. Y'all okay with that? Do y'all want to include forestry or not include forestry? I'm fine without including forestry, because that's a different animal than, no pun intended.
But so if they're taking it out of the deferment and putting it into forestry? is
No,
that
if
what
they're
you're saying?
putting it into, if they're taking it out for development, basically.
If they're taking it out of forestry for development,
Yes.
I'd be fine with that going into
Same
this as
way?
well. Yeah.
Okay, all right, that's fine.
All right.
Just want to make sure
Not a
everybody's
whole
on the
lot,
same
but
page.
yeah.
Yeah, it's not a big difference there.
Okay. Consolidated Health and Human Services, this is this was new this year. In the past, we've been taking the funding from both DSS and Public Health. It's not a whole lot. I think it's just for the
Basically the board.
yeah, the compensation for the board attending. The Integrated Health, nothing stands out with this, but the program is funded by the MAP Bridge Grant and Maintenance of Effort Funds. Public Health has increased by roughly $340,000, and that's just basically due to general increases in the department. In the pharmacy, we've seen an increase in medication costs, and from the pharmacist going from contractual to full-time employee, again, offset with increase in revenues.
And a lot of that was funds where Trey was utilizing funds that we received during COVID, and he has expended all of those. So it's returning back to county dollars.
Mental health, this is just our contribution to VIA, who then allocates funding for Daymark. Social services, not a lot really here. They requested 3 cars, but we were able to purchase those this fiscal year. 2 staff, we're requesting 2 staff, an adult supervisor, currently our adult protective services supervisor oversees 17 employees, which is entirely too many. We need to have 2 supervisors over them, and 1 on-call to handle after-hour calls. That would be from 3 to midnight and handle all on-call at night. And this would cut down on us paying overtime, on-call pay, and so it's very much needed over there. We don't wanna have burnout, and a lot of times we see burnout by having these staff constantly having to work all the time. One reclass in this is going from what?
No,
I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, I mean, really, you said let you know whether to speed up or slow down.
Tell me.
And guys, I'm hearing Lance read a number of different things and point out some highlights.
Yeah.
We've had this budget book for a week now. Do y'all have any questions between this tab and the schools?
No.
If it's okay with you, we can,
Hey,
we can jump to there and,
listen, this is my budget I present to you after today. This is y'all's budget. So we can do whatever you like. In the schools, they requested a $9.8 million increase in current expenses and no increase in capital outlay. As again, I mentioned in the budget message, we're recommending a 3% increase for the schools for operations and nothing for capital outlay, and that 3% is roughly right below 600,000.
gentlemen, do y'all have questions for the schools? I know y'all had mentioned maybe asking a question or two, but I don't know if you've got questions for them. They're here. We've got Dr. Stover and Annie Ellis, our president. So. Well, Charlie, something's on your mind. Dr. Stover or Ms. Ellis, if you come up, please, and that way we can get some.
And I'll use my teacher voice.
Okay.
I know, Mr. Chair, I know last year we gave schools about 3.25 million extra, more than they've ever received. And, then, we're looking to do another $572,000 this year on top of that. In the effort to maintain the tax rate that the citizens are bearing right now, we just, I can't see how we could do an 8-cent increase.
I mean, I know going above revenue neutral last year, even with what we earmarked it to, which was, help me remember, I believe it was roughly
3
3
cents
cents to the schools, 2 to the sheriff's office, and the rest was basically just inflation.
That's right.
And we heard a lot of complaints. We had people run against us complaining about it. And, you know, that, we heard that quite a bit. So, and I think that's where Commissioner Hall's coming from is, you know, the people, there's only so much in their pockets and that has to stretch. Not all of them have kids in the schools. And that has to stretch for all of their bills. So, I mean, that's the strain. And what we do collect, certainly, we've got a number of things we fund, and we've got, you know, one area we just have to keep paying bills regardless of the liability the person creates. So, so I mean, that's.
I can tell you, we very much appreciate what the commissioners did last year, as well as what the proposal of the county manager is this year. What we just also want to be very transparent and honest with the public of the needs that we have. Just like you, we want to uncompress the compression we have with our classified staff, and we want to be able to pay our teachers a little bit more in supplement. About a third of the budget was in one-time cost. And if we can work to have some flexibility on our operations side, we can, on our capital side, I misspoke, we feel like we can work through those. So we're gonna make whatever is provided work, and we do not take lightly sacrifice our citizens are making, we also hope that the results are worth it, and it helps us in the county, all kinds of ways with economic and recruiting. So we understand it's a tough decision, and we're gonna, then once we know, we're gonna go back and make our budget work as we always do.
Any, Commissioner Barrett?
This is maybe just a question to a conversation we were having earlier. If you're saying that potentially in a month, the state could have its budget done, that would certainly put the school system in a much better position to know what's going to be there and what's not going to be there, as opposed to the past couple of years when the budget was passed much later in the year.
Well, yes, as far as additional funds. So one of the things the legislature has in place is a continuing resolution. They've adopted a law that if a budget's not in place by July 1, it continues at the same funding level. And then they, whenever they get something agreed to, then the money, any additional money goes where it's supposed to. You do constantly hear, I'll just say, noise from the group that is at the state level in some of the municipal counties complaining that they don't have money, but they've got the same amount that they had before, even when something's not adopted by July 1. But yes, they'll have more firm numbers as far as any additional revenues, with the caveat of the governor and having to, does he agree, does he disagree, do you have to jump through any hoops after that? That's the unknown.
I just meant to say that some of the reports I've been seeing, it looks like there should be some additional funding for your staff coming from the state.
Yes, there should be, but that's out of state paid teachers. So for instance, any raise that is given, and we are not at all objecting to any raise, for our locally paid teachers, then that increases the cost for us. The budget that we presented assumes a 3% across the board raise for all employees. If it goes above that, then we're going to be further in the hole. If it goes below that, then we're going to, we can adjust our budget positively. And so that's the biggest factor for us, as well as some of the flexible funding, like low wealth money, how that turns out.
Thank you, Mr.
Yeah, and then the federal part, they hope to have by October.
Yes.
But,
yeah.
I mean, it is a balancing act on there. Yes, sir, Commissioner Richard.
Doing a little bit of basic arithmetic here. If we did the 9 million that was requested, that's like 14% increase in total ad valorem tax rate to the public. And like most things, I'd like to see what I'm getting for what I'm paying.
Yeah.
So what would we get for our 9 million? And I know this is a broad subject, because everybody says, what can we do to improve the quality of our students? How can we better prepare them for the future and so forth? Are we going to get 14% incremental improvement in student performance? I know that's an absurd question, but I'm trying to give you something general so you can.
No, I think it's a fair question. Let me answer this 2 ways. What we're asking for is basically more money raises to be competitive with surrounding counties for our classified and certified staff. That's where a lot of it goes to. And then money to continue with our economic development, workforce development programming. Those are the biggest chunks of money that we have that are recurring. And then as we have some one-time money of our computers are going out of date for our staff. And so paying for computers. Seems like everybody decided they wanted to raise their prices on various things that we pay for, like voice over internet protocol phone system. And it would go towards that. So that's where the money would go towards in 3 big areas. Again, just some one-time money for some capital cost, helping our staff compete with surrounding counties for pay, and continuing what we call our Choice Ready program, ensuring that our kids, when they graduate, really have options and can contribute to the economy immediately. As far as results go, I always want to see us improve, right? And we're now in the testing season, so we'll see how we're doing. That isn't the whole measure of a district, but it is an important measure of a district. And so we would hope that we could attract the best teachers and the best assistants, because that's where the work is. How we do is based on the quality of the teachers in our classroom and the assistants that work with them and the principals in the schools.
Well, let me assure you, several of us, I can tell you at least the two of us here, where the state's supposed to pick up the operational expense of the public school system. And we are advocating for you in that regards. And we understand that a lot of counties witness our neighbors to the southeast and southwest spending one-time money on salaries, what it can get you into. And I hope you're sensitive to that. We want to take care of our youngsters as much as anybody. And this balancing act between assets and return is a difficult one. You have my admiration and respect.
Well, the way we're also looking at this is, we can't do everything immediately, but we kind of want to lay out a plan that we could maybe hopefully work together as we progress over the years. Because I don't foresee our priorities changing of, trying to, just like you guys are doing, trying to increase compensation for our staff members, and then trying to ensure that we have the best, most job-ready workforce that we can in our county. And so we'll continue with those, and we'll work incrementally, and we appreciate, again, what happened last year, and again, what you're proposing for this year. We really do.
And a quick question for public information. How many students do you now have, and how does that compare to last year?
So our projection, our best one of two, which is what the state uses, was 10,885. And so that is what we're projecting for this year. Last year, we were 286 more was the projection. And I would remind the commissioners, and I know you already know this, but you're not just providing money for Rockingham County school students. It's also any student in the county that goes to a charter school also gets a percentage of this money. So it follows them, the local money.
No, I'm well aware of that.
Yes.
And I want to just somewhat make sure folks understand, because I know for a number of years, the only part of what Commissioner Richardson said that was relayed to the public is that specific thing about the state picking up operations. And while statutorily that is accurate and true, there are a number of funding formulas that take into account the local dollars that the county puts in, and that impacts monies that the schools get. And that's why we did last year that $1.8 million plug to bridge the gap for that low wealth money. So even though the statutes say that, there are other things. And of course, we definitely want to invest in our future. And that future is the education. We do have and have had for a number of years the advantage of being a system that is the largest charter system, for a lack of a better word. I know that's a bad word, and for some, but the largest charter system around. Charter schools tend to have the unique programs. And so what we have with our school system that is certainly, we're competing for those teachers with Guilford, and we can't match what they do. But we overcome that with atmosphere by a tremendous amount as far as with the school system. But what I mean by the charter system is we've got the different academies, whether it is fire academy at one school, you've got the health services, you've got the STEM, which that makes it, in a sense, the largest charter school. And for again, lack of a better word, around. And so we appreciate what y'all have done for that over the years. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, CTE high school question. When you were talking about funding for career and economic development, does that factor into that, or is that a different set of funds?
Well, we had some, so the reason we were asking in the budget for some startup funds, what happened was because the biennium budget wasn't updated, we didn't get what we normally would have gotten, which was $275,000 when they approve a new cooperative innovative high school. We got approval for the high school, we just didn't get the money that normally follows because of budget agreement, right? And so we were asking for a small amount for startup to get things like computers for students and things like that. We hope that we will get the $275,000 that all cooperative innovative high schools in Tier 1 counties have gotten, and the early college is an example. If we don't, then we're very much going to have to go back to the drawing board. It is in the Senate budget, but it is not in the House budget. We're working to get some clarification there, and our representatives and leaders have been very helpful so far in that, but that is a concern for us. So that's what that money was designed for, to kind of bridge, because of the state funding did not come in as we had hoped last year.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. You good? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I know many of you have met Dr. Cox. She's our new community college president. And Dr. Cox, if you would, I certainly invite you to a regularly scheduled meeting on a Monday night, but we'd love for you to introduce yourself, and people may have some questions.
Do you want me to give the brief little rundown on the budget?
Well, sure, that's fine.
Just they requested almost $400,000 increase in current expense and $200,000 in capital outlay. We did the same 3% then like we did with the schools, which is roughly $65,000. And they have asked to use $185,000 from the sales tax to go towards current expenses at the request of the community college. So those are the areas I wanted to point out.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Welcome to Rockingham County. I know we've met, but.
Yeah. Thank you, Chairman Berger. It's been a delight to be here. One of the characteristics of this community that really drawed me to this community is because I am a small town person, grew up in a small town, and definitely this county reflects those values and the commitment to the citizens and to the school systems. And while that you're both challenging and with all the different things that you also have a deep commitment to the citizens of the county, and you can see that. So I'm really excited to be able to lead such a fabulous community college. Rockingham Community College has been a staple in this community for a long time, and it's very evident being in the community how much that this community loves this community college that we have. So I'm excited. Workforce development, working with our K-12 partners to develop those pipelines. We're really excited about. I come from a college that has a CDE and college transfer. High school, we've seen the synergy and workforce development really rise from that. And community colleges are really best at growing their own. And so if you look at the stats holistically, but I again think North Carolina does a particularly great job, you'll see that if people attend community colleges, they tend to stay here. So we're going to work a lot on that in developing those pipelines and using the funds and being very good stewards of those funds, and trying to have every opportunity to fill the workforce needs, whether or not they're in county government. We definitely want to look at those opportunities, and everything starts with our business and industry partners and how that we can develop that workforce that is going to serve Rockingham County and stay here. And I've had a lot of opportunity to work with that and looking forward to that. I've been welcomed everywhere I've been, so I want to thank everyone for the warm welcome. We're just we're looking forward to putting down deep roots as, in this community and serving in lots of ways, and thankful for all that you do, for the community college, and looking forward to working with all of you and the citizens here and making, Rockingham County a good place and an even better place.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Thank you. Commissioner Hall.
Wait, I just wanted to make a statement. First of all, welcome. We appreciate you having a chance to talk.
Yes.
We're looking forward to good things.
Yeah.
With regards to Lance's statement earlier about the $185,000 that we're gonna be given to the college through the quarter-cent money, I just want to clarify to make sure everybody understands why that's appropriate. What we had talked about last year with Dr. Gunn was that the additional operating expenses of this new building, the new facility, the parking lot, the grass, power consumption, those type things. And that's what this money is intended to cover, those additional expenses that the college is incurring. And due to the quarter-cent money, and that's why we feel it's appropriate to use that quarter-cent money to pay for those ongoing costs.
I do want to caveat, it's not just to that building, because there's workforce development programs that they built other labs, so some of those expenses are just beyond that building, but that building is a representative of a program.
What's the welding?
Right. So, but it still has to do with workforce development.
Yes.
Because of that, and that's why we feel it's appropriate use of that money.
Yes, sir.
And they will, just to mention, the schools will bring back to you all, PAYGO, and the community college will bring forth its sales tax project value later on the summer.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Look forward for the opportunity to share with you more.
Yes.
Okay, so to get Chairman Berger's point, if we can, the rest of this stuff, I mean, we've talked about a couple times. I would, if you would like, I'd recommend to go to other funds. All other funds are restricted. They're for specific uses. The one area I think that you guys want further expansion on was the fire district, and you had 3. And so you want to take a break and then come back?
5 minutes and then we'll get right in.
Thank you.
Yes. Stand please for 5 minutes. believe next is the fire department.
Yes, sir, we had, 10, we had several that requested, increases, and we were asked to have 3 of them here, Bethany, Huntsville, and Summerfield, and if you wanna go by alphabetical order, we can have them come up. Bethany?
This is, for those, for fire chiefs that are here, people at home throughout the county don't necessarily see you. You're more known in your district, so if you could just, Chief Hall, if you could start introducing yourself.
Yes, sir. Perry Hall, Fire Chief with Bethany Fire Department.
Thank you. And gentlemen, I know we had asked for these departments to be here, and the one thing I heard from some of you was on Bethany, because of the dollar amount of the increase. And so if you would just address what is in the difference between the current rate and the recommended rate, and what's in that budget.
Just let the commissioner know it starts on page 416.
We also have a separate, yes.
You have a book right here also that has more detailed information.
Yes. And so even though alphabetically he should be towards the front, he's actually in the back.
But sure, so the funding needs and the request to the county manager's office and to the commissioners was due to staffing needs and the need for a third station up near the highest growth at the 74 corridor. Bethany has a 46 square mile fire district, and our call load has increased dramatically over the years. We are still volunteer, we still depend on our volunteers, but we have been implementing paid staff, full-time staff over the last 18 months. So with this staffing would add 4 additional full-time positions, shift positions, and the purchasing of working towards land and the upkeep and all for a third station up near the Collybrook subdivision.
Can I ask you a question on that? So, how much communication is there between your department and Stokesdale? Because they are getting a new substation that is not very far from the Collybrook subdivision.
Yes, sir. We're in very good conversations with Stokesdale, Summerfield, Huntsville, and it wouldn't actually, what we're looking at wouldn't be at the Collybrook, it would be more down the Hudson Road area of 65, and that's where our response force and everything, what it's recommended for, it would give us a good response time to our area, which is right at the Collybrook line, to also back towards Hudson Road and 158. And this would allow for 24/7, 365 coverage.
Any questions, Chief Hall?
Yes,
Yes,
I got
sir.
some. You said you had a load increase. What has brought on your load increase? And you're talking about volunteers as well. Can you tell me how many volunteers you have as well?
Yes, we have, we're very fortunate. We have 30 active volunteers. But of course, it's a lot different now than it was 30, 40 years ago, where our volunteers worked and lived in the community. So they were able to go and respond during the day at all times. And now most folks that live in the community work somewhere else. So they're available in the evening and on weekends, but we all know life has got a lot busier too for everybody, family life and children and all. And then with the proposed and the existing and the growth that's in the area, the call load has picked up. And also we're looking at it's almost a difference in firefighting, if you will, that the rural county aspect of firefighting is different than with some of the subdivisions that are coming in, or more of a, I call municipal type firefighting, because houses are closer together. You've got quicker burn times. You've got less time to perform rescues. So this gives people in place to be, our average response time right now is right at 5 minutes and 26 seconds. And that allow us to keep to that and provide a crew of at least 2 on scene 365 days a year. Plus everyone else that comes, and the mutual aid department, automatic aid departments that come.
So you feel that with the increase of the houses on that end of the county, it will be crucial for you to keep more and more
Absolutely.
full-time people?
Yes, sir. Yeah, it's gonna be a need, for the future. We always will depend on the volunteers. Volunteers are the backbone and foundation of our community and our fire department. But the staffing is the supplement and, also allow, as the call load gets up, the volunteers get tired, and getting up at 2 or 3 in the morning. I mean, just being realistic and then going home or going to work the next day. So it allows them to have a peace of mind to know that there's somebody at the firehouse.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir. Any other questions?
Just a quick one, an opinion question.
Yes, sir.
I certainly appreciate all the volunteers. They save the taxpayers a ton of money. But in line with the volunteers, I've heard complaints from other fire departments about the training demands on their volunteers are interfering with your ability to recruit new volunteers. They can't afford the 40 or whatever hours per year required. Your opinion?
Yes, sir. To be state certified, like it goes on at the community college across the road, that takes about 14 months. We've got several folks that are in there right now, and that's on their own time. That's 2 nights a week, a Saturday a month, that they go to school on their own time. And people just don't have the time for that anymore, unless my outlook on the volunteers is now, not on the volunteers, but obtaining volunteers. If you're not able to recruit them when they're young, like high school age, or they move into your community and are already there, it's very hard to obtain new volunteers because of life. So we look at ways to try and do what works for us as authority having jurisdiction within our fire district. So we have in-house firefighter training that we do that allows our folks to fight fire within our area and our mutual aid areas, which is allowed by the state to do that. And one thing we've also done is January, we added 2 trainee paid positions. So we've had 2 folks that's working shift work. We currently have 4 full-time staff, and we have 2 trainee positions, and those trainee positions are paid at a lesser rate, but they work and learn, and they're able to work the shift, and they're going to school. So when they graduate school in June, they're able to accept one of the new full-time positions. So we're doing that as kind of a stepping stone. And the other beauty of this is all of our full-time staff live in the community.
Is that different from the junior fireman's program?
So the ones that are currently, it is different, but the ones that are currently our trainees were junior firefighters, and they have moved up through the steps of training and will become full-time with the organization.
We've had trouble getting instructors for our fire academy. I'm kind of gathering from what you say, you're a supporter of the fire academy.
I absolutely am. I actually used to teach in one years ago, a high school program, and they're very worthwhile to the community and paying back into the community and the volunteer departments. I believe in them, yes, sir. If they're ran correctly and invested in.
Any other questions? Commissioner Hall?
Yes. Mr. Hall, I appreciate you being here.
Yes, sir.
I think a lot of folks don't necessarily realize how the fire departments are a little bit different than the rest of government. If people look on their property tax forms, it's actually a separate line. And so I think it's important that folks realize that you have your own taxing authority.
Yes, sir.
And that's what leads me to this few questions that I've got. So who developed your budget? Basically, your board develops your budget, is that right?
Correct. I put in just like with the managers in the county budget, and then I work along with the the board of directors and present it to the board of directors, and then with their grace, the fire commissioners. We have 3 fire commissioners for the Bethany Fire District, and they review it and approve from there.
All right, once they've approved that, you advertise for a meeting?
If we're going for, if we're proposing for an increase, we do publicize for a meeting. We had our meeting on May 3rd. We actually did it at a community function there at the fire department, because a lot of times when you publicize, just being realistic, a public meeting, people don't show up. So we've done them. The last time we went for an increase was 18 years ago now. When we did that one, we had 3 or 4 people there. So we want to be as transparent and open as we can. So we did it at a community meeting, a community function, which we had about 75 people there.
Wonderful. You answered one of my other questions. So you had about 75 folks, your constituents.
I think they had a pinto bean.
We did pinto. It was actually pinto bean fundraiser for the gym.
Very good. And you held the vote?
We did.
That night. Can you tell us how the vote went?
Yes, sir. It was unanimous approval. We didn't have any objection.
So do you feel that your constituents in your district understand the increase that they're facing on their property taxes?
Yes, sir, I do, and we do, and we've actually been in these conversations for some time, because to be honest, and y'all are aware too, we had a meeting in December too, not knowing so we've had 2 community meetings. And the community meeting in December, we did at our community Christmas party, which we have about 200 people at, because we want to be as transparent and open as we can. So they've actually heard it twice.
Well, the reason I ask is based on the budget compared to the numbers you did.
Yeah.
You're looking for $246,504 additional dollars this year.
Yes, sir.
Now, based on the numbers that were in the budget last year and what you're asking for, it's actually $292,000 increase, but basically 53% increase.
Yes, sir, it is. It's $200,000 for 4 paid positions, and then 4 full-time positions, and then the remainder to go towards the 3rd station investment.
Very good, very good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And just to note too, the response time up to the Collybrook area is our farthest area. If we have somebody at our main station, it's every bit of 8.5 to 9 minutes to get up there.
Will Griffin Road be part of your district?
Yes, the first 2 sections of that development and that's what has started all this 2 or 3 years ago, was the Griffin Road subdivision.
I might point out, it's 200,000 4 position, round figures.
Yes.
There was conversation earlier where the median EMS was 50,000. And so just to support what you're asking for is not out of line with other areas that we're seeing.
And we're trying to think out of the box and do things different, because we're very proud to be what we are, and we're not trying to be like anybody else, but we can't be a municipality, or we can't be a Charlotte or Greensboro, and we don't want to be. But with that, we can't offer things they can offer. So we try to, we actually pay pretty well to be and you have to this day and time to be able to recruit and retain staff. So we've been very fortunate.
I got the question.
Yes, sir.
I heard you mention earlier Hudson Road for a new department. I also have heard Griffin Road in the past.
So somewhere between what we have mapped it out from 140, Station 140 on 65, all the way to the Stokesdale Station area that they've been talking about, and then back. And where the optimal area would be for Bethany's 3rd station in relationship to Stokesdale's substation. And that optimal area would be between Hudson Road and Griffin Road.
Between the 2.
So in between those areas, and then that would be optimal response time between us and Stokesdale and the new station and 140.
Okay.
Summerfield's part of that consideration too, isn't it?
Absolutely, they are. And we run a lot with them, and it would help us on that side of the 158, Price Mill, that area in there.
Thank you. Any other questions? And thank you. I do want to kind of piggyback something that Commissioner Richardson said. It applies to all, not just to you. Because I don't know if you're going to stick around. My guess is you got other things to do than listen to us further. But number one, I have made a request to the legislature as far as trying to figure out a program that due to some Department of Revenue requirements and regulations, I think we've got to go through the Commissioners Association, but I'd like this board to push for the Commissioners Association to take some sort of tax relief to volunteer firemen and get that approved so that counties could then give some sort of discount to those volunteer firemen. So I'm hearing yes, and I think we'll submit that through the association and hope, it's not this year, but hope in the near future. That's one thing, the study that they're doing as far as this volunteerism with rescue squads and fire departments. That's one thing that can offset the burden that you have. The other thing is, due to my father's position, we are the recipient of, we're the only county that is the recipient of $700,000 that is out of the budget. It's something unrelated that we will have in place a grant program for volunteer fire departments, only for volunteer fire departments here in the county for equipment. And that probably at our next meeting, and then we'll get some stuff out to y'all. And so all departments that service the county will be eligible to submit. Again, the total amount is $700,000, and we're the only county that got it, and it's only because of, certainly Representative Purtle helped us get it through the House, but no other county got that money. So you'll be hearing more about that in the near future.
Thank you. We would definitely appreciate any help and support we can get in for the volunteers. And, you know, one of the things we say in our meetings with the communities is, you know, everything at home is goes up. Everything we buy at home goes up, and it does the same thing at the firehouse, and just like it does here. And so we're really trying to be proactive and not reactive, and be prepared and ready for these homes that are coming in, and not behind the 8 ball.
Yes.
So we appreciate the support.
To piggyback on what he said, we're already dealing with, or I'm already dealing with the association, and your complaints are shared by most counties and that I've dealt with in the states, and I think it's going to fall on receptive ears.
Thank you. We would definitely appreciate the support.
Thank you. So with that, over the next month or two, if we can get a resolution prepared so we can submit that.
Got it. And I'll also touch base with Kevin Leonard and tell him kind of what we're.
Okay.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Huntsville / Jacobs Creek, I guess, or soon to be, or.
And guys, same thing. I know we covered some general things with Bethany. I mean, your face is known within your district, but the county's much bigger, and we got people from all over the county watching, so.
I'm Tim McMillian, new director with Huntsville and previous retired chief at Jacobs Creek. And
Dusty Wood, I'm the treasurer of the board for Huntsville Fire Department.
Yes, sir. So, let's see. So y'all are requesting, I think, an increase in rate. Lance, what is that rate currently, and what is the request to go to? Oh, you've got, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, it went down to 8.13 back when we had the increase tax rate, the tax evaluation rates.
Yes, sir.
went back down to 8.13, and we had initially put in for 11%. Now we went to 11.5. Part of this is in coordination with the merger of our department and Jacobs Creek Department. Should be complete by June 30th of this year. So we put budgets together for both departments that we would like to see at 11.5%. The majority of that increase is due to staff additions. We want to add one shift, we're doing a little different shift probably than Bethany. 24-48 shift takes 3 people to make one position. We've had a younger guy who was our first paid guy. He's still in the learning stage, still needs to finish his EMT to be completely done. And then we're in the process of getting 2 other folks to complete the one paid fireman. We're looking at some older guys, some guys that have been firemen for a good long time and are close or at retirement and still want to be in the fire service. And the reason we chose to do that is to kind of help us. The new folks that'll come in, we'll have some older guys that have been there, and he'll be able to hopefully increase the time it takes to get these folks up to the position of full-time fireman. So we're paying these guys a little bit more probably than the normal. And like Chief from Bethany said, everything is going up. All our, fuel, anything you buy, especially equipment, is going up. Turnout gear is basically doubled in the last 3 years. The prices of that. One other addition to the staff, we're going to have an administrative person just to help with the paperwork, do this job that I've been doing when I'm like retiring the next end of this year. I'm a 50-year guy with Huntsville, so.
Chief Danny says you can't retire.
Well, I know what he says. But, and we still have not as many volunteers as Bethany. We've probably got at Huntsville 20 volunteers maybe, but you got about 8 or 9 in my position that come to the fire department to help any way they can. And we still got some of these guys that, they know how to drive a truck, get it to the scene, and get the water out. You still need that person. They don't go interior anymore. But they are still very valuable. And everybody does a little something as best they can. Danny Wilson, I give you an example, and most of y'all know Danny. He still comes over to the fire department every day, and he's got an office there. He's there. That's what he likes to do. The merger has also created a few other expenses, not unexpected, but it cost us $5,000 for the attorney to do all the 149-page document that was sent to the North Carolina Attorney General, which was probably a heck of a bargain based on what an attorney might charge a day. But we're a member of a Management Solutions, is a group out of South Carolina that helps fire departments with all kind of issues, including this. They've been very helpful in getting all this information done. We also, in the process, we have received now 2 new trucks that we ordered back in 2022. We got one last year, a 3,000-gallon tanker. That truck, similar to the Bethany, we're getting that truck simply because of the houses and so forth that are in our district. That 3,000-gallon tanker is like 3 fire trucks, 3 engines, which normally have 1,000 gallons of water. And then we did get a new engine as well, which was kind of in our rotation. We just ended up at this point in time getting 2 trucks in at the same period of time.
So if I can, as far as those trucks, I mean, those are things that you had submitted and budgeted for before.
They were and submitted and budgeted for. It just took a long time to
Yes, sir.
get them.
Yes, sir. If we could concentrate on the increase, because I believe you would have budgeted for whatever debt or cash payment was needed. So as far as
Typically, when we buy a truck, we're gonna pay some money down. We're gonna put some money back every year, and that capital reserve money is what we use to fund our trucks. In fact, if you go back, I can go back probably 15, 20 years, and we have paid for trucks, not the engines, but the brush trucks, med trucks, equipment trucks. We typically pay those with cash. We've accumulated in our capital reserve, which saves a good bit of money on interest. Now, we can't do that on a pumper and a tanker, because the tanker was about $550,000, and the engine was about probably $650,000. Buy those trucks. If you buy that engine today, we've been told that $650,000 truck today, if you bought it, would be $1.1 million. But what our strategy has been is that we want to save that money to take care of instances where we have to buy a new truck or equipment. Air packs, huge expense. It's about, I think it's about $100,000 when we purchased them last time, but they're good for a good, 20 years.
You and I talked about this a long time.
Yes.
I think that what the chairman is, we're interested in why the increase this year.
Why the main reason is for paid firemen. We're gonna do, we've got Jacobs Creek as well, so at our department, we want 1 paid fireman on each shift, and then we're still utilizing the part-time people.
So if you could tell us what the difference is from last year's budget to this year's budget, dollar-wise, as far as that increase?
I think it was probably about $200,000.
Okay.
I think last year was maybe 188 to 200. We're gonna be over budget. $188,000 maybe last year, 200. This year it's gonna be $400,000. And the majority of that is paid people.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Based on the numbers in last year's book, I think their budget, what they'd asked for was like 541, but we ended up giving them 592,303. That was last year's book.
And that's the Huntsville department, not the Jacobs
That's
Creek department.
Huntsville alone.
Yes.
And their request was 852,981, an increase of 260,678, $260,678.
Okay, so.
The 200,000 would be the 3 paid guys.
Yes, sir.
We're also adding an administrative person that's probably gonna be, I don't know, 30 or 40,000. I'm not sure what we'd have to pay that person. Because, that person would also be doing a lot of my stuff. I do all the, finance stuff. I write all the checks, do the budget, all that stuff. So that administrative person has got to do some of what I'm doing now.
They'd be doing for both districts.
They'll be doing it for both districts, the administrative person.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
If you would, as we're talking about Jacobs Creek, their budget in last year, we gave $169,010. And the current request is $231,366, an increase of about $62,350.
And we figure about 100,000 on, part-time. We are doing part-time down there. How many, Tim?
There's one there now every day, and he's wanting to increase that.
So we're trying to.
With part-time.
Yeah, if you look at part-time, and we're paying the part-time guys about $16 an hour, and then you gotta add on Social Security, Medicare, and so on and
Yes,
so
sir.
forth.
Yes, sir, but don't mean to cut you off on that, but what I'm hearing is that about 200,000 of the $260 amount is salaries. And then above
Jacobs
that.
Creek, it's only 100,000, Jacobs Creek.
Okay, yeah, but then as far as above that, you're looking at an administrative person that you're not sure what that dollar amount is.
Well, we don't really know. We
And then
think
you've
we
got
know.
another bid in there that is miscellaneous. I guess, and I had some of my questions clarified as far as the submission, talking about possible fees with restructuring debt, and there was no concrete information there.
Well, I can give you that information now, pretty close.
Okay, and y'all had pulled it out of this, though, I believe, is that?
That is not included in that tax rate. The way it reads, the request was coming across as an additional, and it would be no additional.
Okay.
That money is expected to be paid out of this suggested tax rate.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I think that's, we're just looking at,
Okay.
tell us what that increase is, tell us what those dollars are, and tell us why you're asking for more money. And so what I'm hearing is salary.
That's the big, yes, sir.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. And then beyond the salaries with firemen and administrative, there's just some miscellaneous expenses that have gone up. And I think what Commissioner Hall was pointing out is last year y'all submitted a budget, we gave you more than what was submitted for. Based on just keeping you revenue neutral, and that was just based on growth.
Right.
But are there any other questions of?
I don't have a question, but I would say to you, now, granted, I live close to you. But you're the only financial man for any fire department ever asked me to come down and review these numbers. And frankly, they were a lot clearer there than they are here today.
Well, thank you, I appreciate that.
Well, I think it's important because it points out what you were alluding to, these other individuals that are close to retirement, that are still driving your fire trucks. Without the additional help, we very well could be considering closing Jacobs Creek. They gotta have the help.
We're gonna keep that running.
I understand,
We have a plan.
it's a significant help to the public safety.
Yeah. So, okay, Commissioner Hall has a question.
Well, yeah, I've kind of got the same line of questions that I asked Chief Perry. So basically, you guys have developed your own budget. You have your own taxing authority. Did you advertise for your annual meetings?
Yes, sir.
Were they well attended?
I don't have it with me, but I think there was probably only about 12 or 13.
Well, so you did have a vote. How was the vote?
The vote was unanimous.
So, again, do you think your constituents understand the increase that they're facing? We're looking at combined about $323,000.
I think they do. I've talked to some personally, and explained the fact that, we were gonna have paid guys to continue to to provide the fire protection we have in the past.
Okay, well, the reason I bring it up, we were criticized last year that we didn't step over your guys' taxing authority and your constituents' voting authority and impose more taxes on them than you guys had asked for. And so now, this year, you guys are asking for more money. I just want to be sure everyone understands where the need is, and I think you've clearly delineated that. And that taxing authority resides in that district, and you guys have voted on it.
Yes, sir.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right. Any further questions?
Well, I think it's worth pointing out, Jacobs Creek also voted. Is that not
They
true?
did,
Yeah, I'm assuming that would be both districts.
There was a lot of stuff going on with this merger. And we're almost getting to the end of it now. We've had to restructure these loans. And I'll just tell you this, you're talking about Jacobs Creek. We're gonna put $50,000 in one of those loans so we can get the monthly pay or the annual pay back down to fit the Jacobs Creek budget. Next year, there won't be but one budget. It'll be constantly, it'll be all inclusive, and hopefully it'll be a little easier to understand. So,
Okay. All right. Thank you.
okay, thank you, Jim. Appreciate it.
Next is Summerfield. So if y'all would introduce yourself.
I'm Jenna Daniels, I'm the assistant chief.
Chris Johnson, I'm the fire chief of Summerfield, been fire chief for 17 years there.
Thank you. And so, of course, your district goes across two counties. The majority of your district is in Guilford County. You've got a portion of Rockingham. And so I know you and a couple other districts have this interesting game of navigating the political waters of two different jurisdictions. So, you've asked for an increase in the Rockingham County portion. And if you could tell us what that money would go to as far as that rate increase. The current rate for us is?
Current, it's 659.
659, and they're asking for this, almost double, is what they're asking for. So if you could tell us what that goes to.
Sure. We are asking for an increase both in Guilford and in Rockingham. Our Guilford, we're increasing request is 15 cents to that. We're currently at 13.1 there from that side of it. Basically, the increase that we're looking at for in Rockingham is an increase of $80,330. And what that's going to do is help add staffing. I'm looking at adding 3 staff members to Station 29. It's the station that runs into Rockingham County. Basically, I'm just using and what it's breaking down to for us, because our starting salary is $47,365. And at the end, for 3 positions, that's $198,942. And so of that, one position is $66,314 at. It's kind of looking at the Rockingham County, where Guilford is going to be paying the $132,628 of those 3 salaries. If you look at it, because the total for the 3 is $198,942. So basically, ours is just going for that 1 personnel. Even though we're going to be filling it with 3 people, 1 per shift, we're just dedicating that increase to 1 personnel at that station. The other 2 will be subsidized by Guilford.
Okay. And so basically, you just took 3 people and divided it. But as far as the tax district, I know you've got value-wise, in Rockingham County, the value is $189 million as far as property value. In Guilford, you sent me that number, and it was
about $2.3 billion.
Yes.
I can get you the,
So, yeah, I mean, it was somewhere in there, and so, how did you come up with the percentage breakdown between the counties with what you're asking for?
so basically it was just one person. I'm like, if I can get Rockingham to pay for one, into there. Because also what we have seen, and it's due to us having pay staff, we're running every structure fire within Bethany's Fire District now and, Huntsville and Stokesdale, throughout their entire district. And it's because we got pay staff. So I'm just trying to add pay staff to help us out, but also help them out from that side of it. Talked with them about where their tax rate and different things were, trying to get in line with our surrounding areas, what they are. I know Stokesdale's at 12.5, Bethany's at 12, Huntsville's going 11.5 side of it. Just trying to get in range from that side of it. So we're not there. That's why we're not pushing to do the same in both counties from that side.
Questions? Yes, Commissioner.
So speaking with, Mr. Cates, he was saying that you guys also help us a lot on the rescue side.
We have a heavy rescue out of our main station there on Summerfield. So yeah, we get called all the way to Huntsville, wherever. Bethany's called for us, and wherever their needs is, we'll respond to.
I'm sure you guys do a lot on 220.
We do, yep.
So I heard the numbers, as far as number of residents inside of your district, do you have an idea of how many residents reside in your district?
In my whole district or just?
Rockingham County.
I do not have that number. I know for my whole district it's about 15,000 is what our, but I don't know what it's broken down to in Rockingham. So.
Sorry, I wasn't trying to gotcha.
No, it was, so.
Okay, thank you.
I know hypothetically speaking, you've got a sales tax thing running in Guilford County that may be of benefit to you. Looking into the future, how does that play into benefiting, maybe reducing the burden on our folks?
Yeah, so basically what that's looking at from the standpoint is we're looking at an additional sales tax thing that's working through Guilford County and Raleigh. And it's going to kind of, if everything passes, it'll go to the school systems, GTCC, and the county rural fire districts. And basically that money's coming, and what we're asking for is that to help offset some capital trucks. I'm the chairman of that funding committee itself. And so we're looking at trucks, high expense items, some building side of things. And basically what we're wanting to do is take the capital side out from the rural fire districts, put it on some of the sales tax money and additional funding that's coming in through the county. And what we can do there is put more costs towards personnel staffing inside of that side of it. Basically, we're under a 1950 funding model. That's where we was established and where we're at right now for all volunteers. I know, listening to the other two that was here, they still have a lot of volunteers. We don't, from that standpoint. We're more paid than we are volunteers right now, between my three stations. And it's just because of what's moving out into Summerfield from that standpoint. We don't have the farming areas that we used to have. We don't have the farmers running on the calls and from that side of it. But there are still some in Guilford that does do that. So what I'm hoping for is we don't have to come back and ask for an increase. So it's like from the Guilford side of it, when I went and projected my 15 cents there in the increase, and to keep tax rate neutral from the side of it as well, on Guilford, we should not have to go back. I have not had to go back for Guilford in 11 years. I've never come, since my 17 years here in Rockingham, I've never had to come and ask for an increase here from that side of it. So what I'm trying to do is help pay for capital side of other funds and use the ad valorem tax side to help pay for staffing. And so that's the whole plan for that money right there.
And some of your district in Rockingham County has water lines.
Yes, up 158 and Price Mill Road is the two areas that we have.
Yes, sir. In Guilford County, you don't have any support for water lines.
No, sir. They're talking about putting a tower and filling it with wells to run certain ways, but we was in a meeting this week and They had $5 million for that. The total bill came over $7 million, and they gotta look at cuts and different other stuff.
As far as the fire rate that you get that applies to insurance,
We're an ISO Class 2.
okay, and that's district-wide.
That's district-wide, yes, sir.
We get punished for not having lines in Guilford County, in a sense.
Yes.
Okay.
I would love for y'all to have lines running right through something, to be honest.
Yes, sir.
Because what that does, it takes away from us having to buy tankers and other items, and also it brings the growth side, so we don't have to keep coming and asking for different things. Growth is what provides us the service.
Right.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Berger.
More of a comment than anything else, but, so to your point, your rate that you're asking for, even though it's a substantial increase, puts you in line with other western, districts there.
Yes, sir.
And you've never requested an increase before.
No, I'm not in my 17 years, and I don't know when they came before me from that side of it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Commissioner Hall's got a line of questioning you've heard.
Yeah, you can, so you guys have got your budget.
Yep.
You advertised for your annual meeting, correct?
We did, we advertised for annual meeting, but also our annual meeting is in August. And so we made the first notification of possible of an increase in August at that meeting. That went to a letter with all our corporate members. The secondary meeting that we took place in March the 31st, and we had a push-in ceremony for the new tanker that we got that caught on fire 12 days after it was at the station, that we finally got back after a year and a half of it. We had a push-in ceremony and also a promotional ceremony for that. We had 120 people there at that. We advertised that on our website, and also we put an article in the paper about that for advertisement for it. Like I said, got 120. At the end of the push-in ceremony, everybody came back. I said, we are now moving into our training room, and for anybody to see the PowerPoint presentation that I had of our budget and time. Of those 120 people, 5 people came in there to review it. So I even asked my assistant chief to go out and try to get more people in there from that side of it. Went through the PowerPoint. Everybody voted in favor of it. They had questions and what that side of it
You
is.
say everybody, all 5?
All 5.
Okay.
All 5.
Commissioner, can I interject for a second?
Yes.
So you're telling me you told 120 people that you had a PowerPoint presentation and only 5 came?
Yes, sir.
That's unbelievable. All right.
That's it. And we, because the way.
But they all knew what was going on.
Yes.
So they, even if they didn't come and watch and vote, by consent, they said, we're not interested in participating
Well,
in
and
this.
that leads into my next question, naturally, is do you think your constituents in Rockingham County understand the increase in fees they're looking at?
I can't answer that 100% from that side of it because we don't hear them. We send the stuff out. But we had 120 people there to show up, and nobody come in there to say it. We also, other thing we did from a standpoint is we sent out a survey within our whole fire district.
When you say you send it out by U.S. Post Office or email? Or?
It was Facebook, Instagram, websites, trying to hit. We went to the Summerfield Business Merchant Association that has some people in Rockingham County as part of that to get that data out, to put it out there. We put it in the Northwest Observer advertisement in there to go here to take a look at it. And we had and my very last question, it goes back, was if we increased our tax rate to 15 cents to help with an additional personnel and pay side of it, do you support it? And I had 92% of the people say, yes, we support that from that side of it.
Well, I'll have to say, it sounds like you guys have done a good job of advertising, letting folks know what was coming. The concern is, for me, of course, y'all have the highest percentage increase of any of the ones requesting an increase, while not the highest dollar increase, it's the highest percentage. And so when somebody sees their bill go up 71%, they might get shocked and all.
Yeah.
That's my only concern.
Yeah.
But I think you've done what you could to let folks know. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir. Yes, Commissioner Richards.
So your rate for Guilford County students is how much per hundred?
Well, right, we're asking for 15 cents, but as of last Thursday night, the county manager in Guilford raised every fire department's up because they're starting to looking at paying for some radios being on the tower and also how many 911 calls were being dispatched. So actually, he raised ours to 15, 18, but they're going to take the top 18 off from the fire district to pay for items, and we did not know nothing about that. There are some departments in Guilford that's up to 27 cents because of this side of things as well. So we are asking for 15 cents. I can't tell you what the Guilford.
For your Guilford County residents, you asked, how much you asking from Rockingham County residents?
11 cents.
11 cents.
Yes, sir.
Now, I understand,
We're not gonna increase that.
yeah, you can count on that. Now, I understand that in addition to your ad valorem fire assessment, you get some additional monies from the county that they don't get, at least Stokesdale doesn't get those from Guilford County. I can tell you that.
I'm sorry.
Well, they get them for the Guilford County
Yeah.
residents. They don't get them from us. Now, do you not have an overlay fire tax in your district?
Yeah, and that's, I think, where the county manager can put into his say of, we can add extra money into that.
Is the public generally aware in Summerfield District that they can be assessed an additional tax without benefit of elected official input?
So I don't know the answer to that question because that's never been, and basically with the overlay, it was because there was departments that was maxed out at 10 cents. We was one of them because when we was established in 1951, we came under that model. They put the overlay in, but they didn't put a top line on it. And so that's where some departments are trying to increase to. And then that's where it goes back to the county manager. Now this is the first year that he's saying, okay, hey, now we're going to charge y'all off the top for 911, or for the amount of calls you respond to. I don't know if that answers your question, so.
Oh, I may know more about this than you do because I was very much against overlay fire districts. Because I don't think they go through the democratic process of taxation. What I'm trying to avoid is there was a situation some years ago, and it's not here, you know, I'm gonna vote for you guys. It's not here, but there was a situation where the residents of our county were paying a higher percentage rate in Guilford, and there was a lot of public dismay with that situation. And the reason that was different is Guilford County had these sales tax funds that were coming in beyond the ad valorem tax assessment. That's more than you want to know about taxation.
Oh, no, hey, like I said, I've been in this business 17 years, and actually the last 3 years has been really, it seems like my job has gone away from being a fire chief to more of administrative side of trying to look for funds. Trying to.
Just for public information, the auxiliary fire department, Stokesdale, is taking the lead on building down near the intersection of 65 and I-73.
Yep.
You guys are providing a fireman to that?
No, we're not providing. At one time, we have land on 158, right there at the gas line that we've had for many years. We was looking at maybe potential putting a fire station there. Stokesdale was looking at the same time of combining with us. They was gonna put a truck in, we was gonna
That's not gonna happen.
That's probably not gonna happen with them building, and it's because of a lot of growth, that area is not coming to the, I was hoping there'd be a lot more growth in our district of the 158 and I-73 area. It has not got there yet.
Well, we'll take up a slide.
But speaking of the Stokesdale station, there's, they are working with us on a truck. So we are in the middle of getting a 77-foot ladder truck to replace our 61-foot ladder truck. And basically what Todd has been, Chief Gallen has been in some of our truck committee meetings. That truck's already been ordered since 2023, and it's supposed to be here first quarter of next year in 26. But basically what we've done is got an aerial truck that he could utilize within Rockingham County side of that area with the Ontex and all the other commercial structures, because what do you need? There's no sense of you sitting here having to buy a truck. If we're buying a truck, let us combine the efforts, and it's not they're putting payment to it. It's not. We're paying for it. It's just us working together. What do you need for your district? This truck also will run into the Huntsville area and also the Bethany area, because I know Chief Hall has spoke with making sure some of the cul-de-sacs in some of these neighborhoods that this ladder truck can get in there from that side of it. So.
And, thank you. Guys, I think the question is, are we, what I'm hearing is the majority of this increase is for one full paid position. Are we comfortable with that, or do we look at breaking that out from a percentage standpoint? Certainly, I don't think there's a way, or there hasn't been necessarily a percentage breakout on their overall budget is the only thing. At least, seems to be almost impossible with the way the sales tax works in Guilford County, which is not per capita, it's a mess.
Yeah.
But I think that's one question that some people may ask is, why do we pay a third and we're not a third when you hear those tax value numbers, which are significantly different. Any thoughts on that, or comfortable moving forward the way we are?
My opinion is that it's within a reasonable range of those other fire districts in the western part of the county, and it's a reasonable explanation that it's for a full-time staff member, as we've heard from multiple people today.
Yes.
I'm comfortable moving forward with that.
Okay. Okay, good deal. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes. I think that's.
Last thing is that you got the capital we've already talked about, we've got 5 projects with CIP, we talked about those, the Ag Center.
Yeah, I mean, guys, you've had this book for a period of time, and it's very similar to the one that we had last year. Jeff, you're the new guy that some of this may be new to. Do we have any questions about things in the capital book?
More general question. So have we completed the needs assessment for the space that we were doing the study?
No, we're still
working on that. Okay. So there may be, once we complete the needs study for the space, we may be looking at some additions to the capital improvements.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and it is a breathing document. Everybody is aware of that. As far as, then we had a program in place that was for extension of water lines for new development to gain customers. A request for that hasn't come before the board in the last couple of years. The question is, we've got the news out of Eaton as far as changes, and we're still working through that. I think Lance met with John, and they feel much better moving forward on that end. Do we want to continue that grant program? Do we want to stop the grant program? Again, that is us, if we get enough return on investment, moving those lines to the edge of someone's property for however number of many people could tap in. Thoughts on that, or y'all, any ideas on that?
I'm fine with continuing that process. We're still needing development, we're still wanting to add more customers.
Yeah. Okay.
While we're talking about it, I believe we had an incident where somebody went through this process and then didn't develop. Is that correct? Do we have any callback mechanism?
I think we can adjust some of the stuff we're doing.
Yeah, we have no callback now to that.
We had discussed that, you're right.
Yeah.
We had discussed that.
Because I'm not really supportive of us running, water lines for people for their development. They can run their own water lines, but if we're going to do that, and then just to have our taxpayer dollars go toward running these water lines that don't develop, I definitely am not for that. So maybe a modification on this program.
Yeah, that's fine. And I guess over the next month or two, we can kind of look at that and then bring it back see what needs to happen. Of course, it was, I understand and agree as far as government subsidy, but we were a penny of the tax rate in the hole. We were chipping in $700,000. We were bad at the business, so to speak.
And we're in the black now, though.
Yeah, we're in the black now, so that was the purpose of it, and as far as getting there.
And to that point, we're in the black now, do we wanna continue it?
Well, that's why I brought it up.
So being that we're in the black now, I certainly think there should be a caveat for clawbacks if somebody, if we do move forward with this, but also I think it's a welcome discussion whether or not it's necessary to continue.
Yes,
I think we move it, but in the contract, you pay back if you don't come across.
Or do it as a rebate. Let the developer pay for it with, as they put a property or a house in the tax base, then they get a certain percentage of rebate. Is that something we can consider?
We can look
It's
at-
legal, but we could ask.
Yeah, we can certainly look at some ways that might work and then bring it back in the next quarter or so.
Yeah, but we don't want to finance a private
Yeah.
developer.
Yeah, now that we're in the black, now that we've eliminated a penny of the tax rate, by, getting customers this way.
And paying off the debt.
Yeah, we can, in the next 2 to 3 months, come up with some ideas and bring it back. Okay?
We've got about 465,000 in runabout.
Okay. All right. I'd leave that alone for now.
Okay.
Until we make a final decision.
Sure.
So, anything else?
No, sir.
Okay. Anything else?
You might want to remind everybody at 2 o'clock at the Veterans Treatment.
Yes, we do have the grand opening, open house, Veteran Treatment Court, at the courthouse, today, at 2 o'clock. Welcome anyone to attend. First court date is scheduled for next week. And I believe-
27th.
Yes, so that's an exciting thing for us to get off the ground. With that, gentlemen, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Barrow.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Kellum. All in favor?